Isaac, Nosuke, a Schulte, Ortner, and Buck edition of Primetime today. Good to see you guys. What's going on? Good to be on air with all y'all.
Yo!
Another SOB edition, which is my new favorite acronym.
I went home and told my wife last night, I'm like, you know what, babe? Cheers to Buck for coming up with the SOB moniker for us.
I don't even think I can take credit for that. I think it was somebody on the text line at some point in time where it may not have been Schulte, but a Suk, Ortner, and Buck, which also works for the same acronym. And so I heard it a little while back. I love to take credit for it, but I believe that goes to a listener.
Hey, well, thank you to everybody on the Vancouver Ford text line listening. If you want to hit us up there, you can, 503-864-6FAN. Love to be on today in the middle of just still in early June. I would say not usually a busy time in sports, but it just feels like an extra busy time in sports. But before we get to all that, I hope you guys are way less stressed out than I am. I hope you're not dealing with the level of stress that I am right now. In the middle of trying to sell my wife and I's car, it has been a SOB, to use your moniker, of a bit of a time. So not really enjoying all the.
Is car sales kind of like house sales right now? Like, is there something going on in the market? Like, I've never sold my car.
Yeah.
I've never had to sell a car. I've always, my white privilege. My grandfather gave me my very fancy Toyota Camry when he bought his latest car. So I've never had to really go through that process. Is it really difficult?
I haven't really either. I drove my first car till it died, and then I drove my second car until it was worth about $1,000 and traded it in for a little bit of credit on my next car. But no, I've never gone about the process of just outright selling a car. So I unfortunately cannot help here, but I'm interested to hear about these tales or these hangups, Schulte.
Oh, it's just the sleazy, attempt of money being, grabbed from you. It's just you always get into a space where you're trying to make a deal and then you find out how badly everyone wants your money.
So are you on like a big national site? Are you on like a Craigslist, or do you have just like a sign up that says for sale, call us at our phone number, or like what are you guys doing?
So basically, I've refused to go private party sale because I just don't want to deal with it. I'd rather we are, and I'm not trying to say like this is a stressful situation, like we're underwater on the car. We're not. We are, we got lucky. We bought a car right before the pandemic, which it was right before all the prices in used and new cars started to go way the hell up. And we're just trying to see, hey, it's probably a good time to take that equity, put it into something else, and get me my Z3. I've been talking about getting a Roadster here on Primetime for quite a bit. And now that my wife has a company car, we're like, well, hey, it's a good time to do that. Let's go look at a Miata. Let's go look at a used Z3, a much lower car payment, if non-existent, as compared to the $500 a month we're paying now. And we get some equity out of the car. But just trying to do that, yeah, we've basically called the dealership. We've worked a little bit with one of the national companies that, just says, hey, we'll buy your car, make it super, super easy for you. But some paperwork has added some hangups in that, and just trying to like take a couple of extra trips out there apparently is required to sell this car. And I'm just like, you guys, like, just take my money or just take my car and give me the money. I don't want to have to like jump through all of these hoops. I'm trying to sell you a vehicle. Just cut me the check.
As long as you have the deed to the car, what else do you need? Is there anything that am I missing something here? Like, if you have the deed to the car, right, you just have to, hey, you haggle on the price, you accept their offer, whatever they have, you give them the deed to your car, you give them the keys, and boom, it's done, right?
A little bit of a hang up there. I mean, you're financing the car, so I don't think you have the title, but basically you need the registration of the car. But on the registration of the car is my wife and my wife's mother, who is out of state. And so I'm being told that we've got to send a couple of extra papers via FedEx overnight, and they're telling me that I have to handle that. And I'm like, okay, but when we bought the car, the people that were handling the transaction handled that part for us. So it's really confusing. It's like the people that are listening to me tell the story don't actually want to buy the car, which you asked about the market, Will. I don't think that the used or new car market's doing very well right now because
no idea.
People are done paying $70,000 for a vehicle. It's too crazy out there. And I know that Suk, couple months ago, he was driving around that Ford Raptor. And those are amazing. Those are just so nice. And I'm sure if you go visit Monty up at Vancouver Ford, you can talk to him about one. But the problem is that there are just so many people looking not at like the newer cars right now, but looking at like used cars like I'm trying to get rid of. And it really kind of throws the whole market off in general, but that alone confuses me even more. It's like, so why wouldn't you just want to take my car? And I do see people on the Vancouver Ford text line, saying, yeah, just take your car to CarMax. You might not get the best offer ever. You'll walk out of there with cash that day. Literally takes less than an hour. I'll see what happens. I mean, there's been a couple of those national companies like CarMax that have kind of given me the runaround, but I could try them.
Yeah,
So,
apparently everything that I'm seeing on the YouTube also is just CarMax, CarMax, CarMax. I know nothing. Like,
yeah.
I've been very lucky, obviously. Got my first car. My mom bought a new car, so I was given the Accord after my
Good
grandpa
car.
bought a new, great '03 Accord. It lasted until my uncle ran it into the back of someone else. But at that point, it wasn't my car anymore. So it was the perfect first car.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a high school age son or daughter or nephew, niece, whatever, I'll tell you right now, get them the old crappy 2003 to
Absolutely.
2006 Camry Accord. It's going to get you where you need to go, but
That's
going to...
the only thing that matters at that age. You're going to mess up
Right.
something else.
They're going to ding it up. You have no idea how many people I grew up with that got Land Rovers or got brand new Mustangs or got the brand new pickup truck.
Yeah.
They're going to wreck it all the time. You're an idiot when you're 16. You're not a good driver. I'm probably not a great driver at 26, but I'm slightly better than I was at 16. I'll tell you right now, I want the old crappy beat up car. I want a car that's going to get me from point A to point B, and I can fit like 2 of my friends in. If I have a van or I have a bigger car and I can fit more of my friends in, there's going to be more problems. Let me fit in 2 of my buddies. We can't get into too much issues, too many problems.
Yeah.
It's a perfect car. Buy that car.
Buck, what was your first car?
My first car was a 1994 Ford Explorer. It was 8 years old and had 85,000 miles on it when I bought it used. And much to Will's point, I wasn't being careless, but you're an idiot and a bad driver when you're 16. I had it for 2 weeks and I backed over our mailbox.
Yeah.
And I put a nice little dent in like the rear hood there, and I was so mad because I basically just emptied all of my savings for this car that I'd been saving up for since I was 11 or something like that. And it was the minorest of dents, but I was like, I can't believe I did this like 2 weeks after I got this freaking car.
I think I made it about a month. And I backed into my buddy's Honda Pilot.
Guys, I've got you both beat. I think I can make you both feel better. My first car ever was a 93 Nissan Sentra, and I drove it so hard that I killed the engine. I essentially busted a rod inside of the engine, did not put oil in it. Apparently, that's what you got to do to an engine. Didn't really think of that at the age of 16. And yeah, my first, I think it was like a $1,500 or $2,000 car, just out the window. Ended up replacing that with like an '01 Civic. So yeah, Hondas are great cars. I do see someone on the YouTube says that my son just got a '05 Accord for his first car. Great car,
Perfect.
says Joel. Yeah.
Perfect first car, because if you mess it up, it's fine. There's not going to be too many issues. I will say this, though. Did either of you guys get a first car that was a stick shift?
No. My dad drove a stick shift, and I learned, but then I haven't done it in like 25 years. So I'm like, I know if in an emergency, I probably could drive stick shift today, but it's been so long since I've done it. I don't know.
I don't think I can.
Really?
Like, I had a buddy who had a beat up Nissan truck, which also great first car.
Yeah.
And it was stick, and so we would take it out into the woods, and I would try and drive it, right? Back roads. We're not actually off-road, but I would try and figure it out, and it was an easier, I don't know if the clutch was easier. There was more forgiving, so that if I messed up or I missed the shift, it wouldn't completely kill the car. But trying to learn, I spent maybe 2 hours trying to learn and just was like, nope, not doing this. I don't think that most people my age or younger can drive stick. I think it's gone. I think it's a lost art.
I think you might be right. I feel like the last generation that really did spend any time was probably some of our generation, Buck. My grandpa, rest in peace, actually the reason why I want to drive a Miata or a BMW Z3. He taught me how to drive a stick shift in both of those cars, as well as his very dingy old Ford Ranger, which, trust me, that's what I learned on first before I got to go in the convertibles. But Yeah, I could drive a stick shift. I've been able to drive it since I was 15, and gotta teach my wife to do the same once I do end up getting that Roadster. And yes, to the answer the Vancouver Ford text line, I absolutely said a Miata. I'm a Roadster guy. Sorry, I don't know
I don't even
why
know what
that's
Miata is.
that's such a big deal apparently, but I love the small convertible. Essentially, a Roadster is like it's a convertible, but it's like a smaller.
No, I'm looking up, man. I'm looking.
Yeah, it's like a
Oh, I
smaller
know what you're
version,
driving.
and
Are you gonna get the lights that pop out?
well, that's the first model of Miata, I believe, the A body, and
So,
that's the one I'm looking at in '91. Yeah,
A really good friend of mine was at his first Thanksgiving with his in-laws, and he kind of just randomly said offhand, "I'm not going to have a midlife crisis and go buy a red Mazda Miata or something like that," and everybody just goes silent because his father-in-law goes, "I got a red Mazda Miata when I was 40. What's the problem?" It was like, okay, I don't know how to unwind that one.
You gonna get the lights on the bottom? Is it gonna the one I'm seeing right here is purple. It's got purple lights.
Okay.
I think you should get purple lights.
you're looking at the souped up
Are
ones.
you looking at like Fast and Furious type stuff?
I don't want that. I want OG.
I just hit Google Images and then it says Rocket Bunny next to
Yeah.
Miata.
See, there's the sect of people, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not my thing that want to take Miatas and like put everything on them and race them. There's like whole leagues of people around the country, actually the world probably, that do that. I like the classic look. I don't really want to add anything to a BMW Z3 or a Mazda Miata. So yeah, in the process of trying to find one of those right now. Thank you to the recommendations on the Vancouver Ford text line talking about power of attorney. Yes, we did hear about that. What I'm trying to say is I want the buyer of my car to handle all the power of attorney stuff. I don't want to do any extra stuff, and I don't think that that's out of the realm of questions, me asking that.
I think you need to get a red Miata. Sorry, a red Rocket Bunny. That's what it's called on Google.
Okay.
And I think you
Rocket
need. I think you need the red lights on the bottom. I want to know that you're coming into town. I should know by the sound of your car that you have hit the 1080 The Fan studio lot. I need this to be your move. Like, I think you should go out. Yes.
Chelsea.
I need it to be loud. You should have lots of loud music. It should
that
be
won't be a
very
problem.
Fast and the Furious. It should be like Paul Walker in Fast and Furious. That's what you should look like.
Why are
A
you
tribute
picking,
to him.
Yeah, why are you picking the dead one? You picked the
Because
only
that's-
He's
one
also
that's
the hot one.
He's the hot one. Also, that's the kind of car he drives. Remember, Vin Diesel only drives American Muscle.
Well, he
Family.
Family.
I don't even know.
Also, as a
enough
bald
of-
guy, I'd like him to also be the hot one. There's two hot ones in that one, just for my sake.
I genuinely, I don't even think I've watched all the Fast movies. Probably past like 5 where the one Paul Walker was in, and I don't even remember that one very well. So I don't know.
I saw the first two in theaters. I think I was in high school.
Oh wow, but we're going back. I mean,
Yeah.
I saw like Superbad at that time in high school, or at the end of high school, early college. Like that was one of the
Yeah.
last times I went to the theaters then, and then. God, it took me a decade to go back, and then another half a decade, and went to see Oppenheimer this last summer. It's sad. I can remember when I went to the theater to see specific movies.
I never go to the movies anymore. It's fun, but like it feels like it just completely died out.
I mean, I've got an 82-inch television. Why would I want to go sit in a movie theater where it smells like booty and sit next to crying kids when I can sit, drink my ice cold beer, smoke a joint if I want to, and watch whatever I want on a big TV screen? Like, I'll just wait and enjoy it on my couch. Is that...
It's almost along the lines of the
bad?
argument of like not going to the live sporting event anymore. Like I can have a better football experience from my couch than I can sitting on the 15-yard line 3 decks up, you know?
Right, but baseball is always
party.
going to be better at the baseball stadium.
Oh, and I'm not saying
the
that
park.
one's right or wrong. I just, there are so many benefits now to watching movies or sporting events at home because of the quality of our television, because of the quality of our setups.
right.
You're
fair,
not wrong.
Fair. Have you thought about getting a moped? I think that could
like
be a good
Vespa?
option. Yes. I think there's a coach that I coach with, shout out Guzman. He drives a little Vespa. I think you should as well.
I mean,
You can get a sidecar for your wife.
Yeah.
It'd be great. Think about it. Come on, babe. They did it in Dumb and Dumber. Don't you want to get in with me?
See, it would have to be with a sidecar because my best friend had a moped. Like when we were in our early 20s, I tried to ride it once, tipped it over. I don't have the balance to do that.
You can't do 2 wheels?
I don't think so unless I practice
Then
a
get
lot.
Get a Spider.
I've been thinking of that.
The tricycle.
Yeah, the tricycle, the motorcycle, or the Polaris. Like the
Mm-hmm.
slingshots, I think they call them. Although I kind of got scared after hearing that Drew Gordon, that was the kind of vehicle, a 3-wheeled motorcycle that he passed away
Oh,
in.
is that right? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
last
know
week
that, yeah.
in Clackamas County, brother of Aaron Gordon on the Nuggets. Just really sad to see that whole story. But then my wife and I have been looking at like the 3-wheeled motorcycle vehicles and seeing that he passed away in one of those. I don't know if he was crossing over the line. They didn't really give details or what, but it's just like, yes, Will, that's a good idea, but also a little dangerous too.
I think it's a fun idea. What is life without a little bit risk?
You're not wrong.
You have a little bit of risk, a little bit of reward.
Someone on the YouTube comments wants to see Schultze get one of those Calvin and Hobbes stickers
Yes.
with him in a Mariners jersey taking a whiz on the Astros logo.
You know what? Yes, please. Where do I sign up for that? How can I do that? I'm down. Somebody help me do it, and I'll get there. We'll get it done. I'll break every law to do it. Let's see. The Vancouver Ford text line, Miata is a chick car. Only bleeps drive them. No, that's not true at all. I don't know where that... See, that's the prevailing thought about it, and I just don't understand where that came from. Because literally, the BMW Z3, which was in James Bond...
The James Bond car.
GoldenEye, 96, I believe, when that movie came out.
Pierce Brosnan, I think?
Yes. Pierce was the best Bond. But that car was literally made from the Miata. It was copying the Mazda Miata. So everyone, oh yeah, James Bond driving that sexy BMW around. Oh, but a Miata, that's for chicks.
Well, you should see if you can get like the little machine gun attachments and flamethrowers and things like that Bond had.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Yeah, give me some of those guns, machine guns, just with the push of a button to like shoot my way through like a wall or something.
So that if anyone calls your Miata chick car, guns a-blazing.
Hey, there you go. All right. I mean,
I like this. Get the red lights on the bottom or get a Vespa with the sidecar. I think these all would be great car purchases for you.
I mean, I've got some good options now. It's absolutely apparent to me that there are a couple of things you guys brought up I didn't think about. So let's get into sports, though, shall we, guys? I could talk cars with you all day. Maybe we can get back into it in the club. But we have got an absolutely loaded Wednesday show full of sportsy talk. The saucy details of Jonte Porter's dealings with bookies have been released. The recently banned Toronto Raptor. Wow. The text messages are out. You got to hear them. You got to see why he was caught doing what he did. We have all those reasons. Also, how many rings would LeBron win with Dame's personality? Interesting question that we wanted to get into. We'll even get some football talk in when we ask if wide receivers are going the way of the running back. Tons of fun planned in the club. Male birth control gel is safe and effective, according to new studies. So we'll get into that in the club.
What?
Yes, male birth control gel. Stick around. Good topic.
No.
Then why are college grads bringing their parents to a job interview? We got a lot of good stuff to get to today, but first, let's get you started with an NBA Finals-themed poll question when we come back. An SOB edition, Schultze, Ortner, and Buck edition of Primetime on 1080 The Fan.
The home of 1080 The Fan.
All right, getting right into our poll question on an SOB edition, Schulte Ordner Buck edition of Primetime here on 1080 The Fan, brought to you by AAA Heating and Cooling, a family business helping families for over 60 years, AAAIAQ.com. NBA Finals related because we are less than 24 hours away. Thank God. I need something to watch. Can the Celtics beat the Mavericks without Kristaps Porzingis? Your options, yes, no, or maybe, but it will take 7 games. Can the Celtics beat the Mavericks without Kristaps Porzingis? Yes, no, or maybe, but it'll take 7 games. Of course, he's going to be back for Game 1 in the NBA Finals against the Mavs after not playing since April 29th in Game 4 of the Celtics' first-round series against the Heat. Not at 100%, though. The Celtics still stomping through the playoffs, a 12-2 record without him, but can they do the same against Dallas?
Yeah, I think that they are the better team. Basically, for me, when I look at this series, the Celtics are the better, deeper team. The Mavs have the better player. So it goes, when I look at this series, I think it's going to go about 6 games. I think eventually the depth and the strength of the Celtics are going to overpower the Mavericks in a series where the Mavs are going to have to win on Kyrie and Luka deciding to be great and being great and not being stopped and getting 30, 10, and 10 and being highly efficient. Kyrie getting to the free throw line and knocking down a bunch of free throws. When I look at the Celtics team, even if you take out Kristaps Porzingis and you take out Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, because those are your 2 stars. You still have Holiday. You still have White. You still have old-ass Al Horford, who for whatever reason is going to find at least 1, maybe 2 games a series where he goes off. You're going to have Peyton Pritchard in there, who defensively is a little bit of a liability, but he gets a break for other guys, and offensively, he seems to at least make up some of that gap. Hauser is a problem if he's hitting from deep. So you go down the list of what makes this Celtics team great and why they've been running through the Eastern Conference. Yes, they've had some injury help and injury luck in the opponents that they're going against, but there's a reason that they were one of the favorites going into this year. There's a reason why for the last 7 years you have seen this same team largely unchanged continue to find a way to the Eastern Conference Finals and a couple times into the NBA Finals. It feels like it's their time. In the NBA, you have to go through and take some lumps. They've taken their lumps. It's now their time to go through and finish. Would it be easier if you have Kristaps Porzingis? Yes, life is a lot easier in basketball when you have a 7'2" dude that can stretch the floor and can hit a shot from the three-point line just as easy as he can hit a shot underneath the basket. But I don't necessarily think that you need him at 100% because he's not one of your star players in this series.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying, and I think earlier in the week I was on the train of like, yes, it does not matter. They're going to beat the Mavs regardless. But then I start to kind of watch some highlights and look at the numbers, and I try not to get too deep in stats because I'm with Bill Belichick. Stats are for losers, right? But Boston's 5-man starting lineup with Porzingis had a plus 12 net rating in more than 1,200 possessions during the regular season. The same unit with Al Horford in place of Porzingis only had a plus 1.3 net rating in now half of those possessions, 649. That is per cleaning the glass on X. But along with that, just seeing, you're right, Will, that yes, every offense would do better with a stretch 7-footer that's able to hit threes. It's not just the level of, I would say, like points that he's bringing to the floor every night. It's how quick he can get those threes off. He's literally like, if a defender is giving Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown trouble out top, they can literally in half a second dump it to Kristaps, and he's already got the shot up, and he is so accurate with those threes 2 steps out of the 3-point line. I feel like it does more than stretch the offense. It's kind of something that you can't really beat when he's on. And then on the defensive side of the ball, his blocking ability, because he's one of the longest guys in the league, I mean, he can do it more, not to a Victor Wembanyama level, but he can do it more than just about everybody else in the league, maybe -5 guys. And he sneaks in there and blocks those things from the back. And that added to what the Celtics can do on offense, I think that it changes the entire thing for him. But when you're looking at 2 tall dudes on Dallas's roster, actually 3, I mean, you got a couple coming off the bench as well that are overall just making you bigger than the Celtics. I think that that's a problem with Porzingis not being on the floor. And if he's not 100%, then I think later in the series is where you're going to see some issues come up for Dallas. I feel like I've kind of seen the light, but I don't know. You're making me feel like I'm crazy now, Will.
Well, I don't think that you have to think that you're crazy. I mean, here's the general consensus around most people when they look at this game and you listen to national media. It's the Celtics are a better team, but if it's a one possession game, you'd rather have Dallas, right? Because they have Luka. He is the second best player in the NBA right now. And if he wins the title, there's going to be a lot of people that start saying that he's even better than Jokic. I would be someone who disagrees with that sentiment, but I do agree that he is the number 2 player and one of the best, if not the best, finishers in basketball right now. The key is going to be, can someone in Boston make life difficult for Luka or for Kyrie? Luka's still going to get his points, but when you watch that OKC series, as opposed to when you watch what Luka was able to do against Minnesota, OKC has a guy in Lou Dort who is able to move as quick as Luka so he can stay in front of him, and he's big, he's strong, so Luka's not going to be able to bully him around. When Luka was going up against Minnesota and he was going up against Alexander Walker or going up against Alexander, he was able to beat them off the dribble, or he was able to push them around until he got to his spot. Dort, he made that difficult. Is Luka still going to get 30 points? Yes, Luka's still going to get 30 points. But can you make him less efficient? Can you beat up on him? Remember in that OKC series, we're talking about Luka having a banged up knee. He looks slow. He looks beat up. Now, all of a sudden against Minnesota, they're not as physical on him. He's able to get to his spots. He's able to make his shots, and we're not talking about him being beat up anymore. When you look at the Celtics team, their star player is the perfect matchup for Luka. Is Jason Tatum going to stop Luka Doncic from getting 30 points? No, he's not. But what he can do is he can make him less efficient. If he's, instead of shooting 60% from the field, he's shooting 50, that's a victory there. If he has to start pushing and prying and grinding to get to his spots against Tatum for Luka before he gets his points up, that's big time, because now he's going to have to take more possessions off on defense, right? You saw against Minnesota, the big one in game 2 where he makes the steal when Anthony Edwards is trying to hit an entry past the cat down low. Luke is able to get his hand in the way and make a play. Is he a great defender? No. But when he is healthy and when he's not tired, he's going to make some defensive plays. If you can grind him out on offense, Luka won't be able to do that. So I think that's going to be the big key to this series. It's not necessarily going to be what is KP going to do, what is, some of the other role players, White, Holiday, what are they going to do? It's going to be about, can Jason Tatum make life difficult on Luka Doncic so that he's not getting his points as easily or as efficiently? If Jason Tatum's able to do that, Boston should win this.
All right. I like your take, Will, but I still feel like I'm kind of siding on the not sure if they can beat them without Kristaps Porzingis, because at that point you're leaving like Luke Cornett and Sam Hauser to play all the other minutes that Al Horford's not. And I know Al Horford's good. He can hit 7 threes for you on a given night, but not any given night. But go vote in our AAA Heating and Cooling poll question on Twitter. Your poll question, once again, brought to you by AAA Heating and Cooling, a family business helping families for over 60 years. AAAIAQ.com. Will the Celtics beat the Mavericks, or can they beat them without Kristaps Porzingis? Yes, no, or maybe, but it will take 7 games. Go vote, and please, as Rob says, vote hard. All right, coming up, we got to move on to some football talk. Are NFL wide receivers going the way of the running back? That's next, but first, here's Buck with SportsCenter.
Now,
8646 fan, if you want to hit us up on the Vancouver Ford text line. Everybody knows it was either Daniel Craig or Sean Connery, depending on how old you are, talking about the best Bond. I guess Sean Connery could be thrown in there. I do think because I'm of that generation, it's Pierce Brosnan. I know, Will, you're not really a Bond guy.
Never saw him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you were saying this in the break, and it's a really good point. If you didn't grow up watching that kind of stuff, like if you didn't grow up in the Star Wars era, or I guess either of them, because there was the remakes in the 90s or the...
well, now the new ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Those suck.
I mean, I didn't even finish the last one. I think Star Wars Episode 9, I ended up falling asleep. So
it's not very good.
But I guess it makes sense if you're not really on this stuff when you're younger. You're just not really going to be into it as you get older. So
yeah, it's one of those movies and one of those movie genres where it's like if you watch it when you're young, then Bond is awesome. If you don't, then you probably like Austin Powers, which Austin Powers is greatness.
Hey, they might make a fourth one.
Is that right?
All for that.
Yeah. Actually saw, I think a month or so ago, there's talk. Mike Myers was kind of hinting at it, saying that there's something in the works, but he's not really too.
There's a new Happy Gilmore
willing
coming
to
out, too.
talk too publicly about.
I saw that.
Heck yeah.
The new Happy Gilmore, I'm all for. It's going to be greatness because it's Adam Sandler, and Adam Sandler hasn't changed. Like, there's a lot of comedian guys or comedy guys who come in. They have their initial this is awesome, and then they change or they move with society.
Didn't I also see that it's Adam Sandler with Sydney Sweeney involved?
I have seen rumors that the Cart Girl would be Sydney
because
Sweeney.
If that's the case,
yeah,
I've also
gotta watch it.
That's how you span multiple generations, right there.
I've heard Paige Spiranac is in there somewhere
I've
too.
heard that as well.
She might be helping out with the golfing tips or something like that.
Yes, please.
I'll be paying attention.
Yeah, that is a movie I might go see in theaters. You guys just got me back to the theater. Let's go. Again, second poll question from the Vancouver Ford text line: best Bond. The mom needs to be heard. I don't know. I guess we could do that if we wanted to. We'll dive more into our Bond discussion in the club, though. GoldenEye was a good game. One of the best N64 games of all time. It defined my childhood gaming, that's for sure, other than Mario Kart. But really getting into some football talk today because there is a ton of basketball going on, but I did want to try to squeeze in some football talk. We also have the college football playoff schedule being released, so we get to talk about that as well. But NFL wide receiver prices. Let's dive into that. The Justin Jefferson contract earlier this week by the Minnesota Vikings, a 4-year, $140 million deal, 110 guaranteed, essentially setting the market for top-tier wide receivers at $35 million a year. That's quite the pretty penny, especially when quarterbacks are making near 50 or 40 to 50, depending on who you are. So Dan Wetzel from Yahoo Sports took a look at escalating costs of wideouts, and he offered some very stark thoughts about how long this wide receiver boom can last, because he got obviously this new contract, $35 million for Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill, all making $30 million per season. Essentially as well, guys like CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk still looking for those deals, right? So a lot of people making a lot of money at the wideout position. The going rate for the top-tier wide receiver position is huge. Two questions to ask that come to mind when I think of the high prices of wide receivers now. One, did Justin Jefferson deserve that money? I think that's an easy answer for both of us, Will. Yes, just about every stat shows that he's had the best 4 years of any wideout in the history of NFL, or close up there. I mean, the numbers prove that. Along with that, teams game planning for him, double teaming gives the Vikings a huge offensive advantage, and with a young quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, that kind of answers easily yes. He is worth a huge amount of money. But the second question is this. Should teams continue to give this kind of wide receiver money out? I mean, maybe the better question would be, can they afford to in the future, Will? It's a lot easier to find wide receiver talent in the draft. Elite quarterback talent doesn't come around very often, which I don't agree with $50 to $60 million salaries, but I understand why they are so highly paid. But you've seen running back salaries go way down or stay stagnant essentially in the last 15 years in the NFL. Do you see this wide receiver boom with $30, $35 million salaries continuing, happening a long time, Will, or do you think it could go the way of the running back?
Well, I think it's like most things in sports. It's going to be high right now because wide receiver as a position, the value has grown. It's much more important to have a star wide receiver or two, frankly. I think the Justin Jefferson money is worth it, not because of the stats that he's put out, but because you've just made your rookie quarterback's life 1,000 times easier. You have the number one, if not the number one, the number two wide receiver in the NFL, and you've got him young on the outside. You have Jordan Addison opposite, who has been absolutely fantastic in his rookie year, and you get him for dirt cheap. Then you're going to go and grab, a top 8 to 10 tight end in TJ Hawkinson. I know he's coming off his ACL surgery, but you have that as well there. So you now have all these weapons that are surrounding your young quarterback in JJ McCarthy. That is going to give him the most options for success. And you're able to do this, and why he is worth it, and why they're willing to give out that money, because you have JJ McCarthy on a rookie deal. So he's going to be extremely, extremely cheap.
And how do you win a championship in the NFL?
Well, right now, that is a way that teams have built it and teams have done it. You have a cheap quarterback so you can spend more money. What I think you're going to see with the wide receiver position is it is going to hit a point where it caps out, right? Like the bubble is going to go and then it's going to burst. The difference is it's not going to burst the way the running back position has gone, where if your name isn't Christian McCaffrey, you have kind of topped out at around that $10 million to $11 million a year. The reason for that is because the game changed. Back in the day, when you had a running back, you were going to give the ball to them 30 times. You had to have a bell cow. They did one thing and they ran the football, and you had to have a 1,500-yard rusher. Now, when you look at today's game in the NFL, Derrick Henry did it 2 years ago. We haven't had a 1,500-yard rusher since, the 2022 season? And it's going down and down every single year because it's more efficient to throw the ball. You can get more yards that way. Don't get me wrong. I'm an offensive lineman at heart. I love to run the football. I want to run the football. But the way that the game has gone, with the intricacies that you can put into the passing game, with the growth that we've seen in quarterback play, quarterback arm strength, quarterback accuracy, and the growth that we've seen in wide receivers, 10, 15 years ago, these wide receivers were probably going to try and play basketball because it was a flashier position. It was a flashier game. You could be more known. Nowadays, you go into high school, you find a 6'4" kid, and if he's not scoring 30 points a game at your local high school, every high school football coach is saying, come here, we'll get you a free scholarship. We'll get you your college paid for. So you're starting to see a growth in that position as well. I think he's worth it, but I think he's worth it because of the situation that he's in. If you told me Justin Jefferson took this amount of money and he went to, the Seattle Seahawks, or he went to, let's throw the Texans out there, is that necessarily the best? Is that the best spot for him? Texans is a bad example because CJ Stroud's on his rookie deal, but Miami, is he the best deal there for Miami? No, because you're overpaying for a position that you already have another great wide receiver in, and now you're going to have less money to spend on your O-line, your D-line, and positions of value and positions of need that you're going to have to win a championship. But in this spot in Minnesota, it makes sense to me. I don't think you're going to see the wide receiver position completely bottom out the way running backs have, but you're probably at about the peak. This is probably about the top end of what you're going to get percentage-wise. Okay. Obviously, the monetary value is going to grow.
I mean, we've got to see salary caps continue to rise if teams are going to be able to afford anybody. I mean, Buck, feel free to jump in here. I mean, you're not going to find like a Puka Nacua every year in the NFL draft, but there's a chance to get a bevy of wide receivers. And as compared to a quarterback, like the values for me just aren't quite adding up, at least long term, because you're seeing the quarterback making 50, and now you've got to pay a top wide receiver 35 mil on top of that. Basically, what? 50% of your cap, if not more, is eaten up by two guys?
Well, and then that's you have to ask yourself, are you always going to have a pair that makes it worth it? Because what if JJ McCarthy isn't great and now you've paid Jefferson all this money? Like, right. What if either, I'm trying to think of other new receivers that are getting paid. Like what if Joe Burrow never gets healthy or fully healthy and you're sitting on Jamar Chase's contract? Like there are situations where it is essential to have these guys. Like I think Tua needs a Tyreek Hill, right? But I think it's kind of case dependent.
What I like too, though, and I think the Bears did this as well, is they paid DJ Moore. Obviously, he's not making Justin Jefferson money, but you pay DJ Moore to be your number one wide receiver, and then you go and get a young wide receiver who's on a cheap contract as well. and you're surrounding your new rookie quarterback with all this talent around him. So that might be the way of the NFL nowadays too, where you go and you overpay for the one who's going to be your number one. You draft a young wide receiver and he can hopefully grow into it. And there comes a little bit of a trust where you have to trust that your scouts can go out and pick a wide receiver who's going to fit with your quarterback, and also that your scouts are going to pick a quarterback that's going to fit with your wide receiver. If JJ McCarthy's a bust, then this is all a moot point, right? It doesn't matter. But if JJ McCarthy can turn into what they think JJ McCarthy can turn into, they have now they've set him up for the best and most amount of success possible early. And I do think that is important. How many times have we seen great college quarterbacks come into the NFL and lose all of their confidence because they weren't surrounded by anything? Like, it looks like Bryce Young isn't going to be the guy in Carolina, but do you think Carolina set him up to have any semblance of success at all?
That was a Joey Harrington type situation.
Well, I mean, if CJ Stroud had been the number one quarterback taken, do you really think that there's that much difference in Carolina?
Probably not.
Maybe you win one or two more games, and I think CJ Stroud is years ahead of Bryce Young. But there's something about team building and surrounding people with talent. And right now, the easiest way to do that is to get good, talented, long, fast, strong wide receivers around your quarterback and to get multiple. And so I don't hate what Minnesota is doing. They want to keep Justin Jefferson there. He's been one of, if not the best wide receivers in the league. Overpay a little bit. You have the flexibility to do that because you don't have Kirk Cousins there anymore.
I mean, you nailed it. The scouts do have to make the right decision. If you can draft smart, you don't have to pay $140 million, but you're not really going to know that until you get that new kid into camp. And it is pretty easy just to write the check to the kid that you know, and you know what he's going to give you. So I hear both sides, but overall, I guess I'm still of the opinion that athlete salaries are just getting too large. I mean, once again, as rare as a good quarterback is, no player in my mind is worth $50 million in salary alone. I am not against players getting their bag. They're making a ton of money for their teams, but at this rate, quarterbacks going to be making like $100 million in 5 years, right? I mean, it doesn't sound crazy. Everybody thinking, oh, well, that number's nuts. It's really not, because we've seen salaries grow so fast, and that makes it even more impossible to hand out these kinds of wide receiver contracts. So I want to see guys get paid, but it means when these top guys are getting paid that none of the mid-tier, none of the low-tier guys are getting paid either. And that also, I feel like, is one of the inefficiencies of how NFL teams are kind of forced to build a team under these current collective bargaining agreements, is essentially, well, we just got to pay the stars big money, and hopefully we can find some scrap heap guys that'll come in and actually make a significant contribution. And when it's nearly impossible for those guys to get a bag, it's frustrating. So it'll be fascinating to watch how NFL GMs navigate all this in the coming years. It's definitely kind of sitting on a fence here and trying to ride both sides. But yeah, those salaries are growing. Let's shift gears, though, to talk about who's going to be refereeing the NBA Finals and why fans are already talking about it on social media. It's 3:49 on The Fan.
7 and 14 are good football numbers.
Text on the Vancouver Ford text line just now. Quarterbacks will envy the NBA stars. Luka will probably supermax at $90 million. Priceless. And yeah, you are right on the Vancouver Ford text line. I believe Shai Gilgeous-Alexander able to sign a max deal here this offseason, and that would include at the end of that 4 or 5 year contract an $80 million salary. So yeah, the NBA salaries are getting even crazier than the NFL salaries, and that makes a perfect transition point into our next topic. The NBA Finals referees have been announced by the league, and guys, are you surprised?
The fix is in already, right?
The fix is apparently in, at least according to social media, but I'm kind of on the train, not about the fix, but about games easily manipulated in the NBA. Scott Foster is one of your officials for the 2024 NBA Finals, along with Tony Brothers, John Goebel, James Capers, and Mark Davis, kind of the more well-known, Bill Kennedy up there with Courtney Kirkland, kind of the well-known, longer-tenured guys in the NBA. But Scott Foster, the main name on that list, really giving concerns to fans as to why he's chosen every single year for this, but it makes sense, right? The top guys in the NBA, the longest tenured guys that are evaluated from round to round, as the NBA says, but really it's the longest tenured dudes that have been calling the most games for the NBA that usually get these gigs, right? 24 NBA Finals games so far for Scott Foster. You got Davis with 20, Brothers at 16. And yeah, apparently the fix is already in, Will. I know that you're not so sold on that, but I'm kind of starting to get there with how this season in the NBA has gone.
Yeah, I'm not a tinfoil hat guy. That's just not something that's going to go my way. I feel like the NBA is set up for a lot of these theories to kind of come up a lot, right? Because there's so many judgment call situations where is it a foul? Is it not a foul? It could kind of go either way. Like, did the offensive player engage with the defensive player first? Is it a star versus a role player? So I try to stay away from that stuff. Look, I'm fine with this series going as long as possible. Just don't go to Game 7. I have a steak dinner planned in Vegas at the exact same time as Game 7. So just make sure that we go 6. Boston can win in 6. Dallas can win in 6. But don't go to Game 7. Don't make me have to move my reservation. It's the NBA, man.
They probably have a TV in the bar, right?
I don't know. Do they have one in New York?
Probably. You're at a casino.
Well,
I bet
no,
they do.
I'm in a steak house, though.
They still probably have TVs.
Yeah.
Does Gallagher's
I think you'll be all right.
I think I'll be. I hope so.
They want everybody to be able to keep up on their sports gambling tickets wherever they are, right? So yeah,
or go into dinner, have no idea, walk out, and find out you won all your bets.
Ooh, yeah, but it's Game
fun.
7 of the NBA Finals. That's like a move mid-December when you're gonna go watch a movie and you bet all the unders. Like that's. That's kind of the move there, the movie unders.
Yeah, but Scott Foster's reputation for being the playoff series extender.
I was going to ask that. I know that one of these guys has that reputation. I thought it was Foster, but he's the one who, if you see him on the call for a closeout game, expect the team trailing in the series to push the series, right?
Yeah. I mean, already comments on Twitter about like, hey, the Mavericks down 20 points in Game 3. Scott Foster, he can change that. He can help Dallas out. And there are some, at least I would say, some examples of evidence to point to as to why Scott Foster is called the series extender. Back in the opening round of the 22 playoffs, the 76ers held the 3-0 series lead over the Raptors. Foster announced Game 4, just as you pointed out, Buck. And in response, fans quickly said that when he officiates a preseason game or a postseason game, the team facing a series deficit tends to win. That's exactly what they did. Following Toronto's Game 4 win over Philly in the opening round, teams faced a series deficit. Facing a series deficit improved to 19-2. They almost always win when Scott Foster is officiating either a closeout game or a game in which a team that usually the NBA wants to get further along in the series and extend it, they end up doing so because of Scott Foster. Or at least allegedly, the games that he's refereeing in.
Well, then allegedly I have a new gambling angle.
A trend is a trend, no matter how you cut it.
You know what I mean? Like, all you told me there is just, I've got a gambling angle. I really hope that the series isn't 1-1. I don't know. The NBA likes to find a lot of extracurricular things that I don't always buy into and I don't always get into, and this is just one of them. Like, yes, of course, the NBA front offices want it to be a long series. If it was up to them, every series would go 7 games. Every series would be close in the final minutes. But how much of that can you really control? And with the NBA, it's a lot easier. Because guess what? When you watch a football game, a hold is a hold. A pass interference is a pass interference.
You can choose to call it or not, though, and that's kind of what I want to get into in a second.
When you look at the NBA, well, is that an offensive foul because his feet were kind of set? Was it a defensive foul because he's still kind of moving over slightly? Is he in the restricted area? Is he not? It looks like maybe the offensive player wrapped his arm so that he couldn't get out, but we're still going to call the foul. It just feels like there are a lot more things that can be judgment calls in the NBA. And so then you can look on Twitter after the game and you see that your team lost and you can go, see, it was Scott Foster. It wasn't our players sucking and missing that last shot. It was Scott Foster. He made that horrible call.
Well, we do love to build in excuses and scapegoats in sports. That's for sure.
Right.
Like, this guy cursed us. It was this
Yeah.
ref's fault. If that coach knew what he was doing, if our front office didn't have their heads up there, you know what? We love to build in the excuse.
And I know Chris Paul has spoken out publicly against Scott Foster. I think people have said, like, he's had beef with James Harden.
Doesn't he? He has like a personal record against Chris Paul, I think, in the
Yeah.
playoffs that's just like uncanny. I can't remember what it is. There's if you look up, and I can do that in the break, but there is a history between him. And I think Tony Brothers as well has some individual player history, but I don't know if it pertains to any of the guys in this final series.
Well, what you said makes my my brain kind of just turn in knots because I'm already frustrated with the massive shift that we saw in the way that NBA games were refereed basically after the All-Star break this year. They stopped calling fouls. I mean, the outlandish stratospheric numbers of points that teams were started scoring through that half of the year eventually made the NBA tell the referees to call games differently. Now, I get that, like, a hold is a hold in football, right? But there are still times where the referee just doesn't decide to call it or maybe just says he doesn't see it. It's not like every single hold is called in the world of football. I understand that rules, especially in the NBA, can dictate the pace of a game in the same way, but when the refs essentially, in a similar way maybe where NFL or college football refs are trying to use those rules by calling that penalty or not to change the game itself, that's where I have an issue. And apparently it's an issue when Tim Donaghy gets that order from a bookie to do it or wants to do it for a bookie himself, maybe claims he didn't get any directives or whatever, but so that's not okay. But when Scott Foster gets that directive from the NBA, it's just fine. I get it. We live in the world of money. Money always wins, but neither should be able to affect the outcome of a game, in my opinion. But here we freaking are.
Well, I guess my response to that would be, do we know that he's ever gotten it, or is that just a something that we believe, right? Is that something we've come up with? Also,
Yeah.
the Chris Paul, Scott Foster stat. Chris Paul, this is back in 2023, so it might have changed, but Chris Paul's playoff teams, they were favored in 15 of 20 playoff games with Foster officiating. They went 3-17 in those games.
Yikes! Yeah,
Lost by an average of 11 points.
clearly he hates him.
And I'm not trying to say that games
He
are
scored the extra 11.
I'm not trying to say games are being fixed. What I'm trying to say is that games can be affected by calls being changed. We saw that happening during the season, so there was a directive at some point to some referees about how they were calling games. We know that happens. I'm not saying that Scott Foster's getting the directive here. What I'm saying is we know directives happen towards referees, and I just don't want that to be a thing. I would rather the game be called as it is, but that's wishful thinking. It'll never happen. I understand that. All right, so let's get into some more basketball talk. This is the saucy part of the show that I've been so excited about. We now know why Jonte Porter was trying to throw NBA games, and it's exactly why you think. It's 4:03 on the Fan. B edition of Primetime. Schultze, Ortner, and Buck here on 1080 The Fan. Isaac and Souk back. I think Isaac is back next Monday. Souk is back tomorrow. Rob still in Salina, Kansas, and Souk still gallivanting around Northern California, maybe on his way back up. I'm not sure what the dude's doing. He's always having fun, though, when he's not here. So
Yeah, he's got a little bit of the old school Dos Equis guy, the most interesting man in the world, where all of a sudden you're just like, hey, what are you up to? Like, oh, I'm in Japan, going to a Japanese baseball game. Pretty cool.
He does collect some pretty cool experiences that he can then share later. It's not quite Joey Harrington, who has more experiences than anyone I've ever heard, but it's getting up there.
Yeah, that's true. The Joey Harrington Kentucky Derby story is still one of my all-time favorite stories, and it has absolutely nothing to do with anyone but Joey Harrington. But the fact, if I remember the story correctly, and I might be butchering it, he told it one time on one of the story time with Joey's where he basically just like threw some money on like the first race on Kentucky Derby Day, won, and then just kept rolling it over all the way until he got to the Kentucky Derby final. And then he lost because he did like an exacta box by one horse, and the horse literally died the next step. He bet the horse that got second, and the horse that won died the next, or broke its leg and then died on the court. Literally, it's when the Philly wins, I think.
that's awful.
If I remember. Yeah, 2011 Derby, maybe?
Yeah, I think I remember this story too. I think he went with another quarterback who was either from the area or knew the race well, or was maybe even into horse racing. But yeah, he's got a good Ryder Cup one as well, where he was at the Ryder Cup as the guest of his cousin Patty Harrington,
Right.
and I think it was in like Whistling Straits or somewhere, like I want to say like in Michigan or somewhere near Detroit, and he's the Lions quarterback at the time, and they're expecting him to be like Mr. Go USA, and he's like, I actually got to cheer for Europe because of my cousin, and they're like, come on, Harrington.
So are you guys like saying that we should see Joey and Souk in like fancy hats next year at the Derby, like together? Because I feel like we should see them holding some mint juleps, like pictures to mark the moment, and really fancy like $1,000 suits for the both of them, lined up with all the celebs.
I don't know that the Derby is Souk's cup of tea. Like, Souk is more of like a Talladega Speedway
Indy
type
500 type of guy.
He has done Indy 500.
He's done Indy. I wouldn't be shocked if we found out that he did Talladega, but like Joey is much more of he's a fancier lad. Souk just needs like some dad beers and Talladega Speedway. Joey needs like something fancy. He'll have a fancy suit. He'll have a fancy getup. He's just a little more polished.
I mean, I hear the whole Indy thing for Souk. You got to get there. And even though it's maybe not Joey's cup of tea, he still should try to get there. That should be a bucket list checkoff for every sports fan, right? The Indy 500,
Indy,
400,000 sports fans, NASCAR fans, or excuse me, F1 racing fans, all in one area, and you've got basically one of the largest parties ever happening. Yes, please.
I've got nothing against Indy. It just Joey seems like he's going to the Masters. Joey's going to the Kentucky Derby. Souk might be going to Talladega and then like Preakness.
See, I feel like Joey is just the man of status that would go to all the events. Like, they're just all these famous sports people that you see that are just appearing at like every single event because they are either in that world, or they've got friends in that world, or they were a former player. I mean, it's kind of astounding. I feel like my sports goals, like, of course, I want to go to the Masters someday. Rob's already been there.
Twice.
Yep, twice. Thank you for reminding me how little I've actually accomplished in my sports fandom.
Hey, I lose out on that Masters lottery every year, man, on the email.
Yeah, I do think it's coming up here shortly, though, again for next year. So I
will
got to
put in. Is that how you get into it?
Yes. So
they have a lottery system where you can just email sign up and say, yes, I would go these days, and you can check the box for each day that you'd be willing to go, and then you inevitably get an email back later that says, oh, we're sorry, you were not drawn. We'll try again next year.
Ooh, I'm going to have to do that. I'm doing that. Me and my brother and I, we are doing that for the old course in St. Andrews. We are putting in, there's a lottery. There's no chance that we'll win anytime soon, but we're going to put in for it so that way if we do win, then you just plan a trip to Ireland. So I'm getting into the lotteries
like
for
that.
golfing. So I might do that.
You know
for
what? Yeah,
Masters
put
as
yourself
well.
in all the lotteries for all the best sporting events, and then when you hit it, then plan a trip around it.
Right.
I like this method of travel planning.
It's beautiful, and then you always have the hope of like one year we're gonna do it. It's like when you buy a 50-50 raffle ticket, like one day I'm gonna win, and you never do.
These are all, thankfully, the Masters aren't like super, super expensive events if you can actually get the lottery ticket to it. But there are the other things. Like, I want to go sit up on the Green Monster at Fenway. That's probably,
That's doable, right?
It is, but it's $300-ish a ticket. Plus, I don't live in Boston, so it would have to be part of like a trip.
Yeah, but you're always over there. I think that you can make that happen easier than you think.
And you could also do the hybrid. Like, I went and visited my brother when he was living in Boston, and we didn't get seats up there, but we did show up and take the tour a couple hours before game day or before, like in the afternoon before BP starts, and that takes you all the way up there. So you can go up there, you can take pictures, you can experience it, and don't have to shell out, a couple, half of $1,000 for seats during the game.
That is really cool. Now, most major league teams are offering like walk onto the field during batting practice packages, or walk through, all of the team's facilities and walk up through all the stadiums. So I think that's really cool that you can do that. Just pay a little bit of cash. It's actually like less than $100, I think, to do it per person. So it's really not that outlandish, and helps people like you and I actually accomplish our sports dreams.
Can I get the town tour instead? Can I get the tour where they show me where Ben Affleck and Jeremy Renner tried to steal all the money? Because I think I'd be more game for that than the Fenway tour.
I think you can.
Idea.
It's what is it?
Obviously they wouldn't take you into the actual
Charlestown, right? It's like
Yes.
it's like a 1 mile by 1 mile strip, isn't it, or something like that?
Something
I
like
think
that.
so.
And
But I would want the Fenway tour too. But the bottom part. I don't need to see the Green Monster. I don't need to see all the other stuff. Like, take me down to the bottoms of this is
where the heist happened.
Right, like this is where the getaway driver got shot. This is where he said he'd only give him your first names. Like, I want to see that. Like, this is the Dunkin' Donuts where Jeremy Renner got shot.
Well, I love that this segment was completely derailed. Great idea. If you do want to text in to the Vancouver Ford text line, 8646-FAN, that's 864-6326, with your sports bucket list activities. I'd love to talk about them because, I still need to get to the Monster on Fenway. I still want to go to the Toronto Blue Jays and the hotel that they've got in the stadium there. Stay at that. So we can get into that, but I want to really get to the Jonte Porter details, the saucy details, and the reasons why he was trying to throw NBA games. We'll get to that next here on an SOB edition, Schulte, Ortner, Buck on 1080 The Fan.
The home of Dirt and Spray.
The saucy Jonte Porter details are out. We now know why the banned Toronto Raptor, or former Toronto Raptor, was trying to throw NBA games. We have a couple of seedy texts. Tell you what, gents and listeners and ladies, I've been dying for these deets. They are just as dramatic as I expected. I always love to be the fly on the wall, after we hear about all these scandals happen, finding out about all those details after the fact, which is always when they come out. So a tweet last night from Legion Hoops says that, of course, Jonte Porter, who was banned from the NBA for being caught betting on not only NBA basketball games, but himself, allegedly had to throw games. Once again, a tweet from Legion Hoops says he allegedly had to throw games because he was in significant gambling debt. Federal prosecutors allege that Porter had racked up large gambling debts in the beginning of the year to co-conspirators and was encouraged to clear those debts by throwing games in order for certain bets to hit. And this is blowing up this week, not only because of the details being leaked about this story, but the arrest of his co-conspirator as he tried to flee the country of Australia to Australia happened this week. Here's some details from Jack Beer with Yahoo Sports. It was a Brooklyn man arrested earlier this week, charged with conspiring with others, including Jonte Porter.
Bruce Pham.
Yes, to defraud a gambling company. Long Fee Pham, nicknamed Bruce, was apprehended while attempting to board a flight to Australia with a one-way ticket at JFK International Airport.
That's not suspicious at all. Also, wouldn't Australia send him back?
Yeah, I kind of wonder that.
We have a pretty good deal.
I don't know how extradition works on that sort of thing.
I don't either, actually. It's a great question.
Like, isn't that one where you should be like, I'm trying to get to the Virgin Islands, or I'm trying to get...
Or maybe he just thinks he can disappear there? I don't know.
I can get to Guam? Like, they'll never find me. And the Australians are like, yeah, that dude that has a Brooklyn accent over there.
But I'll be honest, I thought Jonte was just a dumbass who was betting against himself, thinking he could throw it and make himself a bunch of money. I wasn't thinking all along it was part of another scheme where he owed other people money and was trying to make it right with them. That's far more nefarious than just being an idiot betting on yourself, trying to get one over on the public.
Right, but this also doesn't shock me. I mean, when
it's not shocking.
Right, like the stories that came out about Porter were like, he's a big crypto bro. He's out here giving his opinions on what Dogecoin or Bitcoin or Ethereum you should buy. Like, this guy is an idiot who thinks he's really smart and tried to make a bunch of money doing gambling. He's clearly probably got some sort of gambling issue. If he's out there doing it in the stock market, gambling on sports, gambling on himself in this way to the point where you are hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. He's just an idiot who thought he was smarter than everyone else, and that's why he got caught doing this. And this Pham guy, I want to know more about him.
Yeah.
After my research yesterday on the mafia and the mafia dealings, I want to know what's going on with Bruce Pham and why he thought he could get away with it. Is he a part of a mafia? Like, what is he a part of? Is he just some dude? Like, what's going on here? Like, did Pham convince Jonte Porter, like, hey, dude, these are some good bets. You should throw some money down.
You wonder how it got started with Bruce Pham, the person arrested for trying to flee the country, one of Jonte Porter's conspirators. Essentially, he had $12,000 in cash when he was trying to leave the country, and he also had 2 cashier's checks totaling $80,000, as well as betting slips and 3 cell phones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything about what this dude was carrying says I am committing some kind of criminal act and trying to run from it.
There are 3 unnamed co-conspirators that are charged, and they still remain at large.
Yeah.
They say Pham and the co-conspirators netted over $1 million in profits on Jonte Porter, 8th man for the Toronto Raptors unders. How did we ever catch them? Who could have ever figured out this nefarious plot?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain to my wife. She's like, well, how did they catch him? And it's like, because nobody bets on a player that doesn't play much every game.
Not that volume, at least.
Exactly. Everybody's throwing a $30,000 parlay on LeBron or Jason Tatum or Luka Doncic or the Mavs to beat the Celtics. Nobody cares.
Yeah, Mattress Mac isn't coming over the top here with his Jonte Porter unders.
Yeah, nobody cares about, mid-tier guys in the NBA, and books see all the information happening with every single bet being placed, and when they see multiple bets on a mid-tier player, yeah, that's going to flag it. That's just so bad.
I might have found Bruce Pham's LinkedIn profile. It appears he worked at Little Creek Casino Resort in Shelton, Washington.
He worked at a casino? I'm
Ooh.
shocked.
Yeah, right?
If it's a local guy, that would, I mean, it's Lee Fong Pham, a.k.a. Bruce. So I don't know if that's the same Bruce Pham, but his nickname is Bruce, supposedly, but his legal name is Ling Fong Pham.
Also, they had a Telegram group chat, and some of that has been released. On April 4th in the group chat, Porter wrote to the group, might just get hit with a RICO, referring to a racketeering charge. You might want to delete all the stuff from their personal cell phones.
Yeah, the new information that's coming out now. Porter allegedly amassed significant gambling debts to one of the defendants. I'm not sure if it is Pham or one of the three that is still at large.
So they were his bookie essentially, and
they were placing bets for him.
Okay.
So they were going to a bookie to place bets for him.
But he was still losing money, so I'm confused. Did he lose money with them, and that's why he was telling them to go to these places? Or he just lost money and then was like, what's up, bros?
Well, among the messages included by prosecutors is Porter telling the defendant, if I don't do a special... This is Jonte Porter in response. It sounds like to a threat or kind of some coaxing from these co-conspirators. Jonte Porter says, if I don't do a special with your terms, then it's up. And you hate me. And if I don't get you $8K by Friday, you're coming to Toronto to beat me up. Porter subsequently exited a Raptors game on January 22nd with what was diagnosed as a corneal abrasion. Porter allegedly then told Pham...
The old eye injury.
His eye had an owie.
Yeah, his eye had an owie. Then he allegedly told Pham and his co-conspirators he would remove himself from a game on January 26th, which he did, telling the team he aggravated that same corneal abrasion. Meanwhile...
you re-injured the eye.
The old Captain Insano shows no mercy.
And video found no evidence, by the way, of his eye actually being struck during that game. And meanwhile, a relative of one of the defendants allegedly placed a $10,000 bet on the under for Porter's points, assists, and steals. The success netted him $75K. Another defendant bet $7K on a parlay of points, assists, and rebounds, all unders, obviously, and netted just over $33,000. And then ahead of another game on March 20th, Porter complained of food poisoning, then allegedly told Pham's group he would exit the game early. The group allegedly agreed on a profit-sharing setup in which Porter would receive 20% of profits. This is the big one, y'all, because this is where they put the $109,000 down for the $1 million parlay, and this is, I think, the biggest flag in all of this and kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. If the group had followed through on their plan and they actually got the money, which the bookie did not end up giving them. They froze the accounts and they froze the $1 million payout. They ended up giving Porter $280,000 of that money, at least if the plan were going to go through. So, yeah, on top of that, now Porter telling these guys they might get hit with a RICO, probably why one was allegedly trying to leave the country. It's just a mess, y'all. And then the group...
He literally asked, y'all delete all that stuff?
Yep.
He asked, delete all the stuff. Unbelievable. This reads out of a bad, like, SNL mafia skit. This is horrible.
Yeah.
I'm shocked they were caught.
Ending this report is the group apparently not happy at this point with their money being frozen. One defendant texted another, I really need you to hound betting company 1, that's in the criminal complaint, at least get me my principal money back. And at that point, the NBA had already banned Jonte Porter, which I doubt that and actually, that's a great question. Any of these bookies are going to give that money back. If it was a bet that was found to be illicit, I don't know what terms are for these betting companies. Do they get to keep that initial principal money as well? Because once it's not in your bank account, it's not in your wallet anymore, right? It's in their wallet. It's in their system. So they technically have control over it, regardless of if it's, your account that has the money or not, right?
Well, I mean, my understanding...
I'm not saying they should get it back, but seriously, I'm not trying to make that point. I'm just wondering.
My understanding of it is because it's all through legal means now. The company looks at it and is like, who is betting this amount of money on Jonte Porter's unders? He's the 8th man off the bench, for the Raptors. He's not a big-time player. We're going to flag this. We're going to have the government look at it. If the government looks at it and they're like, no, this is just a guy who's hated Jonte Porter since the beginning of time and always bets his unders, then, I think you pay it out. But if not, you freeze it until you go through the criminal proceedings. Once they go through it, I would assume the government gets it. Like, if you get caught robbing a bank, the government takes that money and then repays it back out.
But if you put that money up on the counter that was yours to start the bank robbery, and I'm not saying they should get it back. Please, I'm not saying they should. I'm just wondering, yeah, what's that situation? It's very odd, and it is just based on, I think, the rules and regs of that particular book site. And let's be honest, they're not seeing any of that principal money, probably, right? I doubt it.
If they get proven and convicted, I do believe they'll be in some trouble.
Yeah, moral of the story, if you're a pro athlete just tries to bet on sports or do a deal with bookies, don't. Thank you, Buck.
Just don't.
You're putting all of it at risk. You're going to get caught. You're going to look like an idiot. This right here is why I don't think any pro athlete or team employee should be allowed to participate in sports betting of any kind until they're retired or no longer affiliated with pro sports. It's just, the temptation is too big. It's on our phones now. It's just it is too much. I love sports betting, but apparently some people like John Tay Porter can't handle it.
It's not that hard. Well, just don't do it. He shouldn't be doing it anyways.
Exactly.
He knows he wasn't supposed to be doing it. He clearly had an issue. He clearly wasn't good at gambling. He clearly wasn't good at crypto. And then he decided to hatch some harebrained scheme. He's an idiot.
Yeah. My goodness. Well, we got to move off of this idiot and get to In the News next. But first, here's Buck with a sports update.
Now,
It is Wednesday, June 5th, 2024, and it is time for In the News. I am your carbon-using newsman. I use gasoline.
You're so brave.
I appreciate that. I mean, I got carbon coming out of my booty because we all fart, so we're all carbon using, right?
I have no idea. I didn't really pay attention in science. Science wasn't my jam. I was an English history guy.
On top of that, I am an actual former newsman, so this always makes me feel super nostalgic, you know? Just kind of feeling like I'm back in the past reading actual news for a little bit, so it's fun.
I have met newsmen before. Does that count? I've watched newsmen tell the news.
I think it's probably rubbed off
And
on
women.
you a little bit.
And women. I've seen them both.
I will say, like, speaking of meeting newsmen, when I got to meet, Natalie Marmion and Steve Dunn, what a treat that was. Like, just kind of starstruck, not gonna lie, from K2. And I probably would refer to them as the two nicest people in the biz that I've met, at least here locally in Portland. So.
Big fan of the great Dan Tilkin. Have a happy retirement.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a great guy.
Yeah, Dan Tilkin at Coin. Jeff Gianola, honestly, at Coin, one of the guys that when I did used to read news, I kind of formulated my news reading cadences after. So shout out to Jeff Gianola, too. Love him, and I actually had a couple of nice conversations with him on the phone over the years. So, yeah,
Nice.
meeting all these really cool newsmen and women that, that have been reading all this stuff throughout, the last 25 years in our city. Oh, yeah, it's making me feel old because I'm starting to see all of them retire, so it sucks.
I follow a weather lady out in Eugene, and I always know the weather, what's going on in Eugene. Don't know why. Felt like I probably don't need to follow them anymore, but shout out to them. Sometimes they like my tweets, so we'll keep it up.
Shout out to Ketchup today because it is National Ketchup Day.
Ooh, congrats to Patrick Mahomes.
I do remember... I feel like there was this campaign that I've heard about from the 80s that Ronald Reagan, if kids did not want to eat vegetables, that he was just kind of recommending to give them ketchup because that was okay, which we now know is obviously bullshit because ketchup, it tastes good, but it's just mostly sugar.
Tomatoes with sugar, yeah.
Yeah. But that was, I think, if you go and Google that, check me, but I believe Ronald Reagan recommended in place of vegetables, if you had picky eaters for kids, just give them ketchup.
You know, not to go full Jim Bro here, but I've completely cut out ketchup. Ketchup is not in the repertoire. It's a lot of mustard and hot sauce because it's 0 calories.
Mustard's so good. And there's Dijon mustard, there's yellow mustard, there's honey mustard,
I
there's
just go normal
all kinds.
mustard, no calories.
You ever had a curried ketchup? Those things are delicious. They it often will get served with European sausages, bratwurst, things like that. But
okay.
curried ketchup is
Curry
aces.
ketchup. Maybe I'll come back to ketchup for just a little bit, a
But
couple
overall,
bites.
you're right, Will. There are better, less caloric, less sugary sauces. Ketchup is a little kid sauce. I have little kids, and they don't even like ketchup.
Really?
Wow.
The oldest one, who's the only one who could possibly use them, he kind of he goes dry on all of it.
He's
Chicken nuggets.
anti-ketchup.
Nah, he thinks it's too messy. He doesn't want the extra stuff on his food. So I'm
See,
all right, fine.
I was teaching kindergarten today. Every single one of those little guys and girls had ketchup.
At least I'm not dealing with ketchup fingers.
Yeah, that's the worst. Or barbecue sauce. And the
I
real
love
Yeah,
girl,
he's
barbecue
no
sauce.
sauces, so I'm
no
like,
nothing. He's
not
he's
yet.
eating everything raw. Okay.
He'll learn the right way eventually, but right now it's more of no, that looks icky because it's sticky.
Oh,
right.
that's fair. Because I'll tell you what, right now, as a kindergarten teacher today, looking in some of those lunch boxes, it had to have been worse than D-Day. It looked disgusting. There was ketchup and barbecue sauce all over. I don't know how the parents deal with cleaning that out. And it's all of them. All of the kids have sauce everywhere. It's like, how did you miss your mouth? One kid went to lunch with a white shirt. He came back with
Covered.
a red shirt.
Just
I
covered.
don't know how he did it. We water painted, and he didn't get paint on his shirt, but there was ketchup everywhere.
I see on the Vancouver Ford text line, no ketchup or mayo nasty. I do like the combo of ketchup and mayo fry sauce. Give me some fry sauce.
Yeah,
Inject
I'm
that-
down with that.
Yeah, right into my veins.
Yeah, I'm really just hot sauce. I'm really just hot sauce. That's
I also
really all I do.
like the comment that says from the Vancouver Ford text line that we've evolved past ketchup because everything ketchup can do, barbecue sauce can do better. I
That's
tend
so
to agree.
fair.
No, you're
That's
not
fair.
wrong. Yeah, that texter is so right. From one food to another, it is also National Veggie Burger Day. When I was a kid and we went on camping trips, I actually used to consume veggie
Impossible.
burgers. So, I mean, I think this is different. The Impossible Burger is like fake meat. We're talking an actual veggie burger. This is the veggie burger patty. They do exist I think it's just in the frozen spot in the grocery store.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're around. I see them. I avoid them. There's not enough protein. Like,
they're not bad. They're not great. They're just kind of
Just get the lower calorie protein source, right? Like, get the lower fat, get the 93 and 7. Don't get the veggie.
I think a lot of the vegetarian options out there have gotten really good for people who are vegetarian, but I would never order a vegetarian burger over a regular burger as someone who's a meat eater. I just wouldn't do it.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
can't do it.
Like, I'm never going to pick that and say, you know what, that actually sounds better today. It's just, that's not going to be the case for me.
It never sounds better, and the protein to calorie ratio is still better if you just go with the meat. So just go with meat. Just get like bison or 93 and 7 lean beef patties. Like, just get meat.
Couple birthdays, very notable today. Robert Kraft, 83 years old, Patriots owner. He's getting up there. I did see all the comments on social media, not only during the Dynasty documentary on Apple Plus, but then during the Tom Brady roast as well. It's like, oh, Robert Kraft's looking so old. Like, yeah, he's 83. Honestly, the fact that he's out there walking around and talking as smart as he is, props to that dude. Like, he actually still has it for an 83-year-old. Kenny G, love that saxophonist. Have seen him in concert. He is a wonderful show to go watch if you're ever up in Seattle.
Wait, so what is a Kenny G concert like? Does he just come out there with his sax? Does he have like a whole orchestra behind him, or what is that? Or is it more of a solo act? What does that look like?
So he's 68 years old today, by the way. I think he's done a lot of different styles, but the show that I saw was just a solo act. It was at Jazz Alley up in Seattle the night before a Mariners game, and it was a pretty intimate show of like probably 50 tables of people, and he just kind of walked around from the stage down into the audience. I mean, he was closer to me than Will Ortner is across the table right now, and I was just all about that. I'm like, you're one of my favorite musicians, and I'm so nervous, and you looked at me. Like, that's the moment that I had. It was really cool.
Is Kenny G just the saxophone? Is that all he does?
That is all he does. But he does it. He's the best saxophonist ever.
He's got cool hair.
Kind of. I was like, does he kind of look like Weird Al? Is that kind of
a little bit? Yeah,
a little bit.
And if you ever saw the kind of social clip of the guy Sexy Sax Man, he was kind of trying to do a mulleted, bro-ish Kenny G thing.
Oh, so he's the original, and because I'm too young, I just don't understand.
I think probably.
All
I think that may be the case.
All right, fair enough.
Actually, a lot of good birthdays today, y'all. Ron Livingston from Office Space, 57. Mark Wahlberg, 53. Nick Kroll, 46. Bassist Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy, my wife's favorite band. Shout out, Kendall. I love you. He is 45 today as well. I don't know.
Fall Out Boy is 45?
They are. I saw them in February. Amazing show. Great show. My wife and I absolutely loved it. The Jimmy Eat World show that led up to them, not so great, but was there to see Fall Out Boy. Pete Wentz was amazing. Their lead singer, Patrick, amazing. But yeah, they're in their late 30s, 40s now, man.
Wow.
I guess that makes sense because they started getting popular like towards the end of when I was in college. So if that was close to 20 years ago, that would make sense that those punkers are in their late 30s, mid 40s.
And they got famous super young.
Yeah, I was going to say, people forget that there is a music video where the love interest is like young Kim Kardashian.
What? She was in a Fall Out Boy video?
I'm pretty sure it's Fall Out Boy. It's I'll find it.
No, I believe you. It just kind of blew my mind. I never knew that. All right, so we've got a couple of more stories to get to in the news. Portland planning to restrict free parking around the Moda Center, and a serial Salem bank robber was arrested. That's all coming up next here on Primetime on 1080 The Fan.
This is The Fan's Window into Sports, a view into today's top stories, brought to you by Window Nation, online at windownation.com.
Here we go, the inbound, and again it's drive, stop, punt, shoot, short, no good. And the Portland Trailblazers have won the World Championship.
That was a window into 47 years ago today. The Portland Trailblazers beating the Philadelphia 76ers. Game 6 of the NBA Finals, 109-107 to win their first and to this point only NBA championship. Well, we're going to remember this a little later in the show, but I am definitely sad today thinking about this, and the Blazers are giving me some nostalgia.
Yep, I remember this day fondly. I've never once forgotten it.
Nope.
When you were minus 13 years old or
Just a
something?
twinkle in my dad's eye.
Nope. Yeah, Will, you old man, you. Rest in peace, Bill Walton, and rest in peace, Mo Lucas as well. The Fans Window into Sports brought to you by Window Nation this month received 50% off all windows, no interest for 5 years, plus a 10% bonus, all through June 30th. Call now at 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com.
It's the Vancouver
News for Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. A pretty big story for Blazers fans and actually not only sports fans, but anyone that likes to go to a concert downtown visiting the Moda Center. Portland to restrict free parking near Moda during Blazers games and other events. This sucks. From Oregon Live, visitors who want to park along 34 blocks in the Elliott neighborhood, this is north of Interstate 5, would be limited to 2 hours at night between the months of October and May under a new proposal scheduled to go before Portland City Council today. The restricted area, which aims to prioritize parking for area residents and their guests, would be enforced 7 days a week for the 8-month period, of course, between October and May, between 5 and 10 p.m., according to the Portland Bureau of Transportation. This is basically the square area of North Flint Avenue, Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and Northeast Russell and Schuler Streets. It includes almost 370 on-street parking spaces that are free. And a spokesperson for the Bureau says it's intended to address the parking impacts of a major event at the Moda Center and the surrounding Rose Quarter areas so the local residents can take up those parking spots. But here's where I have a major issue with this. These parking spots are not going to be free for any of these residents to sit in. Parking permits for area residents are going to cost $80 annually. Some could get some discounts based on household income. Eligible households could get a free guest permit for the first year of the program. Now, if approved, city officials will pilot this new parking program from October through next spring, and after that, the size of the restricted area could expand or shrink. And if I know the city of Portland like I think I do, they will expand that and take away as many free parking spots as possible. I can't believe it. I hate this. It's just Portland trying for a money grab. This sucks.
I mean, it's not that shocking. Like, you used to be able to go down and park at the the Garbage Hotel right by the Moda Center, and you paid like $10-15 when I was a kid. Go to a Winterhawk game. Now
Smart.
it's $20. Like, it's just part of evolution, I guess is what I'm going to say. It's part of how it is now. Like, wherever you go, you're going to have to pay. Or if you find a spot where you don't have to pay, you're going to be worried about having to pay for your car windows later on. Just, like, it sucks. It's not the greatest thing of all time. Just pay a little bit. It'll be okay.
You know, to your point about your car windows, I did, after paying, I think it was $50 for parking outside of a Mariners game.
50?
Yes, because it was 2 blocks away from T-Mobile Park. And they don't cheap out anymore, man, especially up in Seattle. Every event's huge for them. Got our back window broken. My wife's work laptop was stolen. My iPad was stolen. My nice $300 headphones were stolen. And yeah, I see why parking on the sidewalks or against the sidewalks just on the street is not necessarily the safest practice. However, these are free spots, right? And I'm of the note that parking should be free. It sounds just like a way to generate more money for the city. The city's starting this whole process in the first place. They're permitting this situation to happen because all these apartment buildings that are being built that don't have enough parking spaces to match the number of apartments that are actually going into that building, that is allowed by the city of Portland. The city of Portland is creating this initial problem in the first place, and so whatever they say the reason is, it's just for money, and it ultimately is putting more money into the city's pockets and taking it out of people that want to go to the Blazers games. That sucks, man. It's not just local Portlanders come to these games. You think of people coming out from Gresham, from Salem, from Hillsborough that are now having to spend probably another $30 to do this. You're right, Will. Change is a thing. Things get more expensive, but gosh, an entity like water or parking, you know, being given such a huge cost for just a family or a couple trying to go to a game, or a mom and daughter, a father and son, it aches at my craw. I hate it. I can't stand this by the city of Portland.
You could park by the Mac or by IKEA and get on the Max and go in.
That's
you could do that. You
better
could
way to
go
do it.
Find the bus. I mean, there are options if you want to work around it. It might not be the most fun thing of all time.
Well, and unfortunately, any city or like government entity with an opportunity to rake in free money like this and not take it, it's like it would almost be foolish on their part not to do it. And so even though it has happened to this point without them doing that, it's not remotely surprising.
No. I'm actually shocked that there were free spots.
Same.
Yeah, they did actually. Speaking of Seattle and the parking situation around there, when they got rid of the bioduct through downtown Seattle and moved to the tunnel under Puget Sound, they basically got rid of like hundreds of free spots that people had taken, and then also at the same time disallowed parking up on Alaskan Way. I mean, this has been happening from city to city across the country, and it happened starting years ago. So I hear you. Yeah, this probably took a little too long in your mind, but I hate that it is costing more and more for fans every single year.
Yeah, I mean, but it's the same thing as like the tickets. I'm just trying to think. Like, I know when I went to the Mariner game, I think we paid $40 or $50 for parking, and it was in the parking garage.
See, the way when you go to a Mariners game, you got to do it the way that I just did it with my wife and then my dad a couple of weeks before that. Stay at that hotel across the street. And you do it across the street from T-Mobile Park on a day. You can find them where they are not charging an arm and a leg.
Oh.
I think we got in for like under $220 for a night into a room, which for Seattle downtown, that ain't bad. I would say that's pretty standard. And to be able to just walk across the street and then pay, I think it was like $40-50 for parking, the same thing that you paid just to go to the game and park, while I'm at my hotel, knowing that it's all safe and sound, my car anyways. I had no anxiety. I was able to, have a few drinks, walk across the street after the game, have a few more pops at the bar, and there was a hot tub on the top floor of the hotel. I would highly recommend you do that. Then you don't have to worry about getting your window broken.
Just tell them that it's your honeymoon and they'll put you in the suite.
Actually,
not that I would know anything about that.
Actually, I did use the $20 trick the first time I was up there with my dad, and we got upgraded to a suite.
$20 trick?
Yeah, slip it. So here's what y'all do.
Oh, you give the 20 to
Grease
the
the
doorman?
skids.
Yeah, well, yes, but you got to do it a certain way. You can't walk up waving a 20 and say, hey, hey, hey. You slip it, you fold the 20, you slip it in between your credit card and your ID. You walk up and say, hey, I'm Jordan Schultz. I'm checking in today. If you want to give your confirmation number or whatever you can, just hand it to him, big smile, not very loudly.
Look at Big Ball and Schulte with the slick moves. I
know.
like this.
It has
I don't have
worked.
20 to spend
It
on
has
this.
worked every time. You go up, you walk up with a smile, and you say, hey, I'm Jordan Schultz. I'm checking in today. If you have any upgrades for us, that would be amazing. And if you have something in mind, I asked for a suite. Say, hey, if you have any suites available, my dad and I are celebrating an early Father's Day together. We'd really appreciate it. And she even initially tried not to take the 20 and gave us the upgrade to the suite. And I was like, no. Take the 20, please. You are amazing. You just saved us $150 in cost just for the night. And it's all because you have a little chutzpah, y'all.
See, it's simple. You do that, or...
And now you can afford parking.
Right, there you go. It's simple. Just get a suite in a hotel, and parking is cheaper.
At least you are paying for the experience along with it is kind of what I'm saying, as opposed to just, trying to go up to a game, because Seattle Seahawks fans trying to experience the same thing. You've probably got a better time enjoying it if you book the hotel, you stay the night, you don't have to worry about drinking and driving or, trying to get home at like 4 a.m. That's an ass time.
Always
So,
Uber.
Always
Uber.
Don't drink and drive. But
Or Lyft.
you could just book a hotel near it too. So
That's right.
that is in the news. We kind of got off track there at the end. But yeah, parking, it really just frustrates me. It should be free. It's not. But when you have to pay, just try to get the best experience. Yeah, that is in the news for June 5th, 2024. Coming up next, it's the Hot 5 at 5. It's 4:59 on The Fan.
Save thousands. Be advised.
Fan.
All right, beautiful little Wednesday here on Primetime, an SOB edition. Schultze, Ortner, Buck on 1080 The Fan. We're with you for a couple of more hours. We got the club coming up in just over an hour. The NSA wants you to turn your phone off once a week. We'll tell you why. You can turn $400 into $4 into 100. I added a couple of zeros there. And actually why? Because I was trying to bring up I'm selling my car, trying to make a couple of thousand doing that. We were talking about that earlier in the show. You can go podcast that. Talked about a lot of NBA drama. Jonte Porter, some seedy details about his news coming out. I mean, we've covered so much today, Will. But yeah, I'm still thinking I got to get rid of my car soon. So I've been texting my wife about that. We're trying to manage doing
get
that
the
later
Miata.
this week. Yeah, gotta get the Miata.
Or the Z3.
Gotta get the Z3 or the Miata. I'm not sure because
Or the Vespa.
maybe.
With a sidecar?
I gotta learn how to drive those, dude. I gotta learn.
There's
how to
only
drive
one
those.
way to learn, Schultze.
to do it.
It's to buy it. Take the leap.
I've fallen on my ass though.
I also feel like the
on
Vespa is a
already.
little bit limiting for road trips and such. You can't exactly.
Dumb and Dumber did it.
They certainly did, but what was the title of that movie again, Will?
Dumb and Dumber.
Why was that?
Just remember.
Because they're dumb and dumber?
They just remember Lloyd and the other guy. They hated each other.
Harry
and Lloyd.
Thank you. Harry and Lloyd
You
hated
are
each
so
other.
26
Lloyd
years
and
old.
the other guy.
Lloyd and who?
I just see Jeff Daniels and Carrey. Jim Carrey was really upset with Jeff Daniels. Or Jeff Daniels was really upset with Jim Carrey until he bought the little moped and totally redeemed himself.
I mean, I guess I could roll down the street in a moped like blasting some Kenny G. Then you'd really know that I'm coming up to the studio.
With
like,
the
oh, there's Schultze.
Vespa, you
Yeah,
get a
yeah, yeah.
sidecar for whenever, anyone wants to ride with you. It's great.
Vancouver Ford text line says Miata is always the answer, bro. I don't know. Maybe I'll have a Miata by the time the annual Fan Golf Classic starts. We got the 10th annual Fan Golf Classic coming up here at Langdon Farms Golf Club, presented by Autotown GMC. Come join us for a unique golf experience Thursday, July 11th. The afternoon round sold out. Good job, listeners, getting that sold out. The morning round down to a single-digit number of foursomes left. Matt's Barbecue back to serve their award-winning food. Usual array of craft beverages is going to be in effect. That food last year, Will, you and I were walking around, have some drinks.
Very good.
Yeah, we got stuffed. We definitely left as fatter dudes. That was good.
Okay, good.
No, stuffed, food-wise.
Yes.
That's, God, don't stop that.
Yep.
Get your mind out of the gutter. There's no
Yes.
drops here.
I just was confused. I was like,
Victor-
I ate a lot.
You
and
can
it was
only
very
really
good.
serve one ass.
Yes.
It was very, very good.
That's right. Victor Rico's Mexican Food also back with their famous breakfast burritos for the morning round warm-up for your round on the Michelob Ultra driving range. Our shows are going to be broadcasting live from the course, and once again this year, your favorite fan hosts and personalities are going to be hanging out at Langdon's infamous par 3 6th hole to give you some golfing knowledge, try to help you with your swing, maybe tell you exactly what club to use, brought to you by Doers. That could really make your day if I'm giving you some golf swing action, right?
I'll tell you what, even if the advice is bad, the doers should help, right?
Yes, yes, the Doers will absolutely help because I love me some Doers. I'm a whiskey bourbon guy, so I'm down. Sign up for your foursome now. Of course, one of the a few foursomes left for the morning, available now at 1080thefan.com before the 10th annual Fan Golf Classic is completely sold out. You going to be bringing some clubs, Will? You going to try it at the driving range, or just going to be
I
walking around
always-
drinking this year?
I always show up. I'm still trying to convince the boss man to let me join. I was asked to be in one of the foursomes, so I'm still trying to convince the boss man to let me do it. We'll
Yeah,
see.
I heard that's against the rules, though, because of some prior activities by our hosts.
So
fall-
others ruined the experience for me.
I've continued.
Jerks.
I've continued to hear this story about somebody falling asleep on the course.
I
in
think
years
Suk
past.
said
Thank
he
you.
didn't fall asleep. He chose to take a nap just off the tee box, I
He
believe.
chose
He was
to
just
take a nap.
resting his eyes.
Yeah, as my father would say, checking his eyelids for light leaks.
I think I had to do the same thing at the Burt Kreischer Comedy Festival. I had to make sure there were no light leaks.
We're going to get to the release of the college football playoff schedule coming up later this hour, but first, I will choose to get to the Hot 5 at 5.
Hot topics, hot opinions,
Oh, Charlie, I'm hot today.
and hot air. It's time for the Hot 5 at 5.
That's hot.
The Hot 5 at 5 on Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
No, I mean it. That's very hot.
The Hot 5 at 5 with Isaac and Sue. Brought to you on The Fan by Victor Rico's Mexican Food, the most popular burrito spot in Oregon. Online at victorricos.com. Number 5.
Seattle Mariners back at it against the Oakland Athletics tonight. They won 4-3 yesterday despite a shaky evening by their bullpen. They get going in just about 90 minutes, leading the Rangers by 5.5 games in the West. Joey Estes, Logan Gilbert on the bump. Yeah, first pitch at 6:40. Also, closer Andres Munoz removed from the game last night after aggravating a lower back injury during a collision at the plate. He is getting an MRI. Uh-oh.
Yeah, look.
Wait, the closer had a collision at the plate?
The closer had a collision
Was
at the
he
plate.
like covering the plate on a wild pitch or something?
Yes,
How did it happen?
it was a pitch to the backstop. He tried to meet the runner at the plate, and essentially his back's already been hurting, and he kind of twisted around him and hit him at the same time, so they took him out of the game.
Yeah, it feels like he needs to throw a better pitch there. Look, the Mariners are doing way better than they have done
Jeez.
up to
No
this
sympathy
point.
from Ortner.
You messed up. Deal with the consequences to your own actions. Look, the Mariners are playing well, and that is all I can ask for, because you know they're going to hit a spot in August or in July where they go on a run, and I cannot wait to see what they do. We might actually win the division for once.
Number 4.
Yeah, but that run better not make Jerry Dipoto and owner John Stanton think that they're fine and their offense is great. They still got to upgrade it. They got to get rid of Mitch Garver. All right, number 4, the Utah Jazz. This is huge. The Utah Jazz are bringing back the mountains and classic purple and white look to their jerseys.
I like these.
This is huge. Just 2 seasons after their new color scheme of bright yellow and black, just ugly, the team leaning back into that purple and white and sky blue mountain scheme that the Jazz of the past, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Jeff Hornacek were known for. In the era of ugly jerseys, I love this decision.
The only thing the issue here is they need to change the name. There's nothing Jazz about this. This is all because they came from New Orleans in the first place. They should be, the Utah Mountain Range or something like that. But the color scheme, the whole layout and motif, so much better than whatever they were trying to do the last 2 years.
Yeah, let's just go back to the old school. It feels like whenever teams change it to a newer look, it doesn't work. Go back to what you were doing in the 90s. It's better. Even the Seahawks, they brought back the old school unis. Do that. Everybody should do it.
Yeah, those old Seahawks jerseys are fire.
Beautiful.
Oh, the old blue? Like the
light
original
blue,
yeah,
the royal blues.
Yeah, the royal blue, and the neon green era. Kind of when I was getting into high school, I was pretty particular to that one as well. Number 3, Nikola Topic, a projected top 10 NBA draft pick, and somebody the Portland Trailblazers have been looking at taking at number 7. Has partially torn his ACL, as confirmed by his agent to ESPN today. He underwent an examination at the draft combine in Italy, and that revealed the partially torn ACL that he suffered during a midseason transfer from Megamis to Red Star Belgrade in January. He played a couple of games with that first team, and then with that second team, started trying to play. And here we are now with a partially torn ACL for one of the top 10 picks in the NBA draft.
Yeah, that sucks. I mean, I know the Blazers were looking at him, but I think of this more from his perspective of you finally have an opportunity to get drafted in the NBA. You're going to make a lot of money. People are saying you're going to be a top 10 pick guy. And now I bet you he falls probably at least 10 spots, because why would you take a guy who has a partially torn ACL? Like, why would you wait a whole extra year before you really get a look at this guy? This sucks for him.
I saw someone say the Blazers were probably to take him at 7. Now they'll just take him at 14.
Right, like, exactly. This sucks.
The other idea, though, is if you're ready to tank another season, you could do a lot worse than having a player that's going to be healthy the following season.
You package both of these picks, 7 and 14, to move up to like 4.
That was the Chet thing. That was the Blake Griffin thing.
And
they
the
both
trade
basically
one.
missed their whole rookie seasons.
Yep, so did Greg Oden.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't even know where to go with this. Yeah,
Hold on. Does Nikola Topic play Dance Dance Revolution? This is going to be very important.
Yeah, Topic, Dance Dance. Let's go. All right. Number 2, the Cleveland Browns have signed their GM and head coach to multi-year extensions. That is right. These guys, Kevin Stefanski, I would say that he's actually added some kind of semblance of normalcy and a regular vibe in that locker room of winning. 11-6 in the last year, 37-30 over the last 5 years, the highest winning percentage, or a 4-year stretch, since 1986 through 89 in franchise history. So good for their GM, good for their coach, getting some money. I don't know how good Cleveland's going to be going forward, though.
It's the most successful that you've been in decades. They deserve the money.
And then I just think of how successful could Stefanski and company be if they weren't saddled with Watson and they could go spend a more appropriate sum of money on a better quarterback.
Yeah, what a bad move that was. Just, yeah. What are you going to do with a mid-tier quarterback in the NFL that's making too much money?
It's all committed. It's all guaranteed, basically.
Below average.
Yeah, below average, if you want to say that. Yeah, no team has ever won a Super Bowl that way. All right, and number one, the biggest story of the Hot 5 at 5, the college football playoff schedule has been released. And we see a couple of first-round games that will be on TNT. The first-round games, though, are actually happening before Christmas. So a big change now, obviously, with the expanded playoffs. We have 12 teams in instead of 4. That requires more games. The quarterfinals and semifinals essentially are what the New Year's 6 Bowls have been in years past. And big story about this is you've got the national championship happening on Martin Luther King Jr. Monday on January 20th.
Oh, I was already mad that the game was on a Monday. This game needs to be on a Saturday.
But at least it's on a holiday that everybody will have off. Right?
But you're not getting the next day off.
That's
the
the issue.
whole thing about college football is that it is played on Saturdays. You finally have a chance to correct this wrong, and you don't correct it. It needs to be on a Saturday. Or if you're doing it that weekend, then have it on a Sunday, right? So people can tailgate and they can have the next day after. I know why they're doing it. They get more eyeballs on a Monday, and now they're doing it this way so that people won't complain about like, well, we were at work or we were doing this, right? If you're on the West Coast because of the time slot. But it needs to be on a Saturday, and it needs to be in an environment where people can tailgate it. Stop having it at SoFi. Stop having it in these downtown big stadiums for NFL teams. Have it at a college football stadium. Have it at the Rose Bowl. Have it down in New Orleans. Have it, at like the Sugar Bowl or something like that. Have it at the Cotton Bowl. Have it in a spot that fits college football.
I hear you. I'm kind of interested as to why they aren't doing the championship game on a Saturday. And actually, let's dive into that in our next segment, guys. Let's get right into this college football playoff schedule. That was the Hot 5 at 5 brought to you by Victorico's Mexican Food, the most popular burrito spot in Oregon. Order online at victoricos.com. Yeah, so the college football playoff schedule has been released. Not everybody happy that it is on a Monday, at least the championship game is, but what do you feel about the first round happening before Christmas? We'll get to all of that next year on Primetime on 1080 The Fan.
It's back.
Schulte, Ortner, Buck here on 1080 The Fan. Isaac and Sue back tomorrow. Big news today in college football, though, of course. I mean, we've been talking a lot of basketball, but I know this audience really loves its football. I love my football, too, so I was stoked to see that the college football playoff schedule was released today for the 2024-25 season. Of course, now being expanded to 12 teams, so let's dive into this, everybody. You got the first round basically happening on Friday, December 20th, at least getting going. That one's on ESPN. It's a 5 p.m. Pacific kick. And then you got the other first round games, the final 3 being played Saturday, the next morning starting at 9 a.m. And that is the first TNT game that, of course, we heard ESPN basically leasing.
Yeah, subleasing? That was kind
subleasing.
of odd.
I basically, they bought an apartment or were renting an apartment from a landlord and subleased that apartment themselves is kind of what's going on. But I've heard of that in the house and apartment world. I'd never heard of that in the sports broadcast entity world. But here we are. TNT, in lieu of most likely losing their NBA coverage, trying to supplement it with college football, which I guess that'll be fun. A couple of first-round games. They do baseball and basketball well. I don't have any reason.
They do hockey extremely well.
Exactly. So I don't have any reason to believe. I don't know, who's going to be calling their games yet. I don't know what their teams are going to look like, sideline reporters, anything like that. But I would assume that those games are going to be a good production, especially because it's the playoff games.
I can't wait to find, because they always find that off the wall but really entertaining guy. Basketball, it's Charles Barkley. Hockey, you've got Biz Nasty. Like, who's going to be the guy that they find that's slightly off the wall? I actually love this setup. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of the Friday game, but the way they've set it up for those first rounds, Saturday, you're going to park your butt on your couch and you're going to have constant playoff action all the way through because there are the 4 top teams that are getting the buys. They should be really good games. And then obviously that Friday game is going to be the marquee matchup because it's the standalone game. I like the setup for this. These are the games that will be at the higher seeds home stadium, correct?
I do believe so, yes. Yeah, in the first round, I think that's how it's happening.
I love it. It's smart. And that's kind of a weekend, too, where you're still going to avoid for the most part, the playoff run of NFL. Obviously not in the playoffs, but last playoff or regular season stretch. I like the setup. It's smart. And it's also when you're going to have not the best bowl games around it. So good spot.
Yeah, so you guys like the first round being played before Christmas then? Because that is a busy time for people. It kind of changes. Like, I feel like it's easier to get those must-see eyes in that New Year's week, that last week of the year for these big marquee games. This, I don't think they're going to have trouble, but I think it is going to be a little bit of an adjustment for fans to put their eyes on these, especially like a Friday night, December 20th. If I'm not mistaken, guys, that seems like a holiday party time. That is kind of that week where people are doing all their celebrations, and hopefully somebody can throw this game on Friday night on ESPN on the television wherever you're at. And you're right, Will. This, of course, misses the NFL playoffs. The wild card round starts on January 11th. So, yeah, they're just competing with, week 16 or 17 of the regular season.
Well,
still.
And they won't even – I think the reason that they've set it up this way, they've already had conversations with the NFL. I don't know what the schedule looks like necessarily for week 16 or week 17, but the NFL – look, the NFL is always going to be king, but I do think that a playoff game, depending on the matchup that is getting played on that Friday or if there's any games on that Saturday, I do think that they will outdraw the NFL. Are there any Saturday games? You have the schedule up.
I have the schedule up right now. We've got December 19th and then 21st. So, yes, there is a Saturday game. No, excuse me, 2 Saturday games. The Texans and Chiefs at 10 a.m. and then the Steelers and Ravens at 1:30.
Never mind.
So you've basically got one NFL game starting an hour after that 9 a.m. game on TNT, and then 1:30 Pacific time, basically a half an hour after that second game on TNT as well.
Never mind. The Steelers-Ravens rivalry, that's always going to outdo you, and it's CJ Stroud versus
really
Mahomes.
Any Chiefs game. I mean, it's going to be a huge draw.
Mind. Yeah, wait, hold on. Where's Taylor Swift at? Does she have a concert that weekend?
That's a good question, too.
If she doesn't, then you definitely lose. So, well, look, you tried. You'll have your marquee matchups in a spot where they don't compete with those games.
The Friday night, and then obviously, so, Will, I think you're saying the Friday and Saturday nights are going to be the marquees then. You can't put them during the day competing against the NFL. That's just impossible.
You'll lose.
But one thing also that does happen, the New Year's 6 bowls that were traditionally kind of spread out in that final week are essentially all happening either on the December 31st, and then 3 New Year's bowls.
Right, and I love it. Well, what they're doing that's smart is they have the Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl, and they haven't moved that.
Yes.
Like the Rose Bowl is still going to get played at 2. So you're still going to get the fourth quarter, the sun going down, great spot. You're still going to get the late All-State Sugar Bowl. That's going to be the late game. Love that. And then you've got the Fiesta Bowl and the Peach Bowl, which you can kind of move around a little bit more. There isn't so much of that, like, this is a January 1st game for us.
Yeah.
You still have a little bit of flexibility. You can move it around. I like this. Look, you knew that there was going to be change. It always feels like the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl are the two that cannot be moved. And I like that they didn't try and force it to, like, hey, the Rose Bowl is going to be on December 31st. Keep the Rose Bowl, keep the Sugar Bowl where they're at, and hopefully there will be, obviously the Pac-12 isn't going to be involved, but hopefully they can find a way to get a Big Ten team or a Pac-12 team in that game. Like, how great would it be if somehow Utah made it out of the Big 12 and then Michigan or Ohio State made it out of the Big Ten, and then you still get that Pac-12 matchup and Big Ten matchup, kind of.
Yeah, so the 4 bowls you just described, the Fiesta Bowl, the Peach, the Rose Bowl, and then the Sugar Bowl, all basically being played in that New Year's Eve, New Year's Day window. And then the other 2 bowls that were considered the New Year's 6 essentially are being played now in the semifinals round. The Orange Bowl, 4:30 p.m. on ESPN, Thursday, January 9th. And I do believe, by the way, the quarterfinals do not compete with the NFL at all.
That's why they're where they're at. But
the semifinals start to... No, I don't think the semifinals do either. No, we're good. I'm trying to look at this in conjunction with the NFL schedule.
No, they're set up that way so that they don't compete.
But you don't like a Thursday night.
No, that sucks. And it's at 4:30 our time. Most people are still they're still at work.
Friday, January 10th, 4:30 p.m. kickoff for the Cotton Bowl. Do you think like they should do like a 4 o'clock and a 7 o'clock on a Friday or something?
No, it should be on a Saturday because it's college football. Have one a little bit early. Have your big nooner, and then have your late night game. But you're not going to go and compete with the NFL because at that point the NFL does the Saturday games. But having it at 7:30 Eastern and on Thursday and on Friday because they're both at 7:30, that sucks. But I don't like that.
You can't compete with the wild card round though. You just can't in the NFL because that's wild card round weekend.
I know, and the NFL won't move.
No,
but a college football game, unless it's Maction, shouldn't be played on a Thursday, and it shouldn't be played on a Friday. And I know that they're going to get away with, hey, we can play it on a Friday, we can play it on a Thursday, because high school football is done at that point. But it's not how college football is meant to be consumed.
And then, of course, the national...
That sucks.
Yeah, I am in agreement with you, Will. The national championship, of course, this pushes this out to Martin Luther King Jr. Day, 4:30 p.m. kick on ESPN, January 20th, 2025. That, of course, is that Monday, traditionally like most championships have been in years past, but also because that weekend you've got the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Now, I do believe you could put that, like, at a time on the Saturday or Sunday before Martin Luther King Jr. Day where you're not competing with the NFL, because the divisional round, I'm looking at basically 2 games each day. You could schedule around that, right?
You would. What I would wish is that the NFL and college football would come together and set up a time where you could have the 2 NFL games be the lead into the prime time, which is the college football national championship.
Work together, yeah.
Which should be on a Saturday. It should be at a venue where you can treat it like college football and you can go and tailgate, and it's not as corporate, and it can be college football and what the essence of it is. But it's not going to be. I know why they're doing it on Monday. They're setting it up in this time slot so that, one, they'll have all day. They won't compete with the NFL. And then, 2, you're in a prime time slot on a Monday. It's a big deal. I get it, but it's not what college football is about. I don't like the timing. It needs to be on the January 18th. That should be the day that it's on. It should
Saturday
be on January 18th, Saturday night, prime time. Have it in like Miami, have it in Texas, have it in California, have it in a spot where people can go out, have it down south. I don't care. Have it in a spot where it can get a traditional college feel, have the build up all day, and let people tailgate. And then when it's done after, let people celebrate and then have their fall into Sunday. I don't like that it's on a Monday. It doesn't feel college football-y. But then again, does college football feel that way anymore with all of the realignment and stuff? Maybe not. Maybe I am now the old man that's yelling at clouds.
I mean, I am interested. We had this conversation yesterday on Primetime with Buck in the one seat, talking about how these changes could affect bowl games going forward, and especially with that first round kind of happening before Christmas. You mentioned it affecting other bowl games. It's going to be interesting. It's nice to see this new playoff format on paper, but it will be very interesting to see how it affects other bowls and some of these games going forward. All right, coming up, we have got to get to something very, very important to me. It's kind of been pissing me off the last couple of days. If LeBron James had Damian Lillard's personality, how many rings would he have? That's next, but first, Buck with SportsCenter. All right, let's dive into the athlete that probably ruffles my sports skirt the most, and that would be LeBron James. I would assume he ruffles a lot of skirts. I love watching the dude. I mean, thank you. Yes, exactly. Love watching the dude. I try to tune in every time he's on the court. I don't know how much we're going to get, of LeBron James in the next couple of years before he decides to hang it up and ride off into the sunset. So, of course, any opportunity to watch the dude, it's greatness. I admit that, okay? That's not really what I'm addressing. But LeBron James, he made some comments this week on the Mind the Game podcast with what is rumored to be his new head coach, JJ Redick. That's kind of weird, by the way. You're on a podcast as a guest with your next head coach, just talking all buddy-buddy. Seriously, guys, imagine we're on a show right now, but then here in about an hour, Buck is going to become our basketball coach in a professional setting where we're competing for millions of dollars. It's just that alone, it's a little weird to me. The vibe is weird.
I'm still blown away that we're living in a world where a podcaster turns into NBA head coach. It means, as someone who's been a podcaster myself from time to time, maybe there's hope for me yet to be a head coach in sports. Yeah,
Steve Kerr's getting old.
I think
got a shot.
There's hope for all of us. To Steve Kerr's credit, that dude was a broadcaster and a general manager before he became a head coach, right?
True.
He did literally, after being a player in the league for so long, he did literally every job in the NBA.
Yeah, he did all the other stuff.
And then became a head coach, so you understand.
JJ Redick also played. He's clearly very smart. And, it helps being buddy-buddy with LeBron, but it's also clear that they want him in some form or capacity. They think that if they're hiring JJ Redick, you have to assume that they at least plan for him to be there after LeBron James, because LeBron's got maybe 2 years left, maybe 3. So he is smart enough and he has impressed enough people that with LeBron's stamp of approval, he got a job that he deserved in someone's eyes.
Yeah, I don't really know about the whole JJ Redick LeBron James thing working out, but they were on a podcast together, and LeBron made some comments that did not sit very well with me. And let's just break these down. He's discussing the success of Kyrie Irving while also lamenting that he is no longer on the same team that he is. Take a listen.
Listen, I will call Kyrie the wizard all the time. All the time. There was nothing on the basketball floor that Kyrie couldn't do. And sitting here watching it, I'm playing so fucking happy and so proud and to watch him and continue his growth or whatever the case may be. And at the same time, I'm so fucking mad at the same time that I am not his running mate anymore.
All right. So
the laugh at the end there was very cringe for me. It felt forced.
That I feel like LeBron's entire public persona is forced there, Buck.
Be onto something.
Yeah, I think you're right. So the 32-year-old Irving that he's talking about, of course, an 8-time All-Star, playing for the Celtics, Brooklyn Nets, and now the Mavericks since that August 2017 trade that he requested from the Cleveland Cavaliers specifically because he did not want to be a teammate of LeBron James's. His production only gotten better since his first trip back to the finals. He only played in 22 playoff games since leaving Cleveland, but this entire playoffs this offseason has just been absolutely amazing. Ultimately, a simple answer here, I kind of feel like if LeBron is a better teammate than he's known to historically be, Kyrie wouldn't have left. Maybe LeBron wouldn't have been as mad. Before that, maybe if he would have been a better teammate in Miami, things actually could have continued to work out past year 4. I just feel like LeBron has a history of upsetting those around him or ruffling players' feathers around him and then just going and find a new group to try to win a title with.
Yeah, well, to be fair...
So this is on him, essentially, is what I'm saying.
I would disagree on that, because when you go back, right? When Kyrie Irving left Cleveland, before LeBron got there, he had been the number 1 guy. He then wins a title with LeBron. They go to 3. You can make the argument if he doesn't have his knee injury, they might have won 2, right? Okay. And there is a clear Kyrie wants to prove that he's the guy. He came out of Duke. He's in Cleveland. He's being the number 2. He's not getting the recognition that he thinks he deserves, which a lot of young people, when they get into an industry, feel like they deserve or want to go and try. He wanted to be the number 1 guy. And even he admitted it as much when he went on the I Am Athlete podcast, where he said, hey, I wanted to be the number one guy, and I was never going to do that in LeBron's shoes. Could that be LeBron's fault for how he made him feel? Could that be an evolutionary thing? It's probably a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. You want to be the guy? If you're the number two and everyone's saying you're Robin and you haven't hit your prime yet, of course you're going to want to go somewhere and prove that you can be Batman. So what does Kyrie do? He asks to be traded out, and then he goes to China. When he asks to be traded out and he goes to China for his Nike deal, he's not able to talk to anybody. He's not able to talk to LeBron. All of a sudden it gets leaked in the media, and he blames Gilbert and that ownership group that he wants out. So he never got a chance to talk to LeBron.
Yeah.
So now LeBron's going to be more upset with him, and they have this big fight and this big fallout. Then he goes to Boston. And I think Kyrie really learned on his trips to Boston and his trip to Brooklyn that the grass isn't always greener being the guy. Kyrie had to learn that, hey, maybe don't share every opinion that you have. Don't go out and talk about the proper, don't critique every movie that you see. Don't critique every book that you see. People aren't going to like everything that you vocalize. And he's said so as much since he's gone to Dallas. He has had to take time to grow up and learn, hey, this is a battle worth having, and this isn't a battle worth having. And I feel like what you're seeing now is the growth of Kyrie. Kyrie is 32 years old. He's had more life perspective.
Yeah.
He's had more opportunities and had more people to tell him, hey, don't have that fight here. It's only going to make things more difficult for you. And he said as much. He said he's not out in the public eye as much anymore. He wants to be with his family, with his kids, with his wife. So I think what you're seeing is an evolution. This is also classic LeBron, where he says, we would have won more if we would have stayed together. It's what he loves to do. And it can be a bit nauseating, and that's coming from someone who
because it feels like he could have orchestrated that happening if he wanted to.
Exactly.
Right, and this is coming from a guy who says that LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time.
Yeah.
He has an issue, a little bit of what I call Russell Wilsonism, where he tries to be
Mr.
the number
Unlimited.
one. He tries to be the hero in every story.
Unlimited. Broncos orange, let's ride.
Exactly. He wants to be the hero in every story, and that's what he's trying to do here, and he needs to not do that. But that being said, I think this was inevitable. Whether LeBron was the best teammate of all time or maybe not quite the best teammate of all time, Kyrie was going to want to go on his own because he was going to want to prove that he could be the one.
And I think that, as somebody who's been a pretty staunch Kyrie hater for a while, I think that we have to, and I don't necessarily always love the term give them their flowers, but when you see someone who kind of evolves the way he has, or at least seemingly does, you have to tip your hat a little bit. He was a guy who hit the game-winning shot in the NBA Finals and then split from the superstar. It was basically like, I can do this on my own. I don't need this old man. I'll go do it somewhere else. And then he kind of took his lumps in these places like Brooklyn and realized that he was in some places completely persona non grata. I don't know whether he's changed as an individual or whether he's just kept more to himself, but whatever it is, he's went to the top of the mountaintop and now he went all the way down into the valley, and it feels like he's kind of found where he wants and needs to be right now. And you've got to give that some degree of credit, regardless of how you feel about him personally.
No, that's fair.
It's like he found himself. He went out and he went in a darkness retreat, probably not literally, but
although I could see him doing that.
Yeah.
He does the
You're right
staging
next
and all
to
that.
A-Rod,
you know?
if you told me that him and Rodgers were best buddies, would not shock me. But he just grew up, man. It takes time. Like, there are things that I look at when I was 16 and I go, wow, that's really, really stupid. Why did I do that? And guess what? When I'm 32, I'm going to think the same things about the things that I'm doing right now. I'm going to look at myself and be like, wow, athletic sweatshirts every day? That was a dumb look. Or really, that beard? That's what you were doing? It just comes with growing up. He grew up a little bit, and I think that's the change that you're seeing now.
Well, all this talk of growth, it leads me to, I think, a really good question, and the one that I teased. Just put on your fantasy cap here. If LeBron James had Damian Lillard's personality, right? Just think of it. If LeBron James were more willing to wait around, not necessarily for a lackadaisical Dan Gilbert, but like stick with Pat Riley in Miami, right? Maybe allow for some other moves to be made, wait for a young player to develop, or Kyrie Irving, whatever you want to say. If he had the personality of a Damian Lillard that's willing to give his team a chance, that's willing to be a little bit more patient, how many rings do you think that LeBron would have? LeBron's gotten 4 ring chasing the way that he has, but I feel like if you're willing to let a team build around you, you grow that talent, show a bit of patience, like I'm just mentioning, instead of just up and leaving the moment things don't go right, I feel like he'd have a lot more rings than he does now. Like, it would be close to Bill Russell status, a ring for every finger. That's a hot take, but the talent that he has, along with maybe a more patient personality, in my opinion, at this point of his career, just looking back, hindsight's always 2020, I feel like he could have doubled his ring count.
I disagree. Because he would still be in Cleveland, and he'd have none.
Okay.
If he has the Damian Lillard mindset of like, I'm going to stay and build it here.
You think the loyalty would have killed him?
Look at those Cleveland teams. Look at the Cleveland team that he took to the NBA Finals. His best player next to him was Zilvernius Ilgauskas.
Yeah, it was
Zadrunas,
like Zadrunas, Ilgauskas,
That's how
Smush
bad he
Parker, Boobie Gibson. Like,
they're not good. He left because Gilbert wouldn't build around him, and because he was getting killed.
Justin Verjao.
Don't forget the great Daniel Dellavedova, you guys.
That's right. Steph Curry had to close the deli in the finals.
But again, that's the second iteration with Cleveland, and then he leaves to Miami and he gets a couple rings. You know, him having Damian Lillard's mindset was never ever going to affect how many titles he got. His mindset I think is what got him to as many finals as he's gotten to. It helps that the East was weak. It helps that he was the greatest player for probably a decade, and no one was really close to him in that decade. He had other great teammates around him that helped push him and help propel him forward. He doesn't win a title without Ray Allen. He doesn't win a title without Chris Bosh.
Yeah.
But you know what? You go down the list of everybody, even all the way to Bill Russell. They don't win titles without the teammates around him. What he did, I think, is what was best for his career, and I think it's also why he's always going to be in the conversation of he's a top player in the NBA. Is he 1, 2, or 3?
I mean, I disagree with you, but it's fascinating. This is why I love these debates. Just kind of put your fantasy cap on for a second and think a little bit outside the box. And yeah, I could talk about this with you basically for the rest of the show, but we've only got one more segment until the club. And I want to get to the anniversary of a very important day in sports history coming up next and why it makes me really sad to think about it. And it's not what you think. It's 5:50 on the Fan.
It's time for a Ducks Report, the inside story on Oregon athletics. Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
Deep left. Spencer Steer crushes a go-ahead homer. The Reds down to their last out, and they're back on top. It is 8-7 Cincinnati. A 439-foot no-doubter. The comeback kids do it again with 2 outs.
That is former Duck Spencer Steer helping lead the Reds to a 12-7 win over the Rockies earlier today with a 2-run bomb. His 7th of the season. He's hitting just about 250. He's one of my favorite former Ducks in the MLB right now, and probably the most successful position player in MLB that's come out of Oregon.
Ducks baseball's hot in the streets right now, into the super regionals, and we're hitting bombs in the MLB. Doesn't get better.
No, I feel it. I feel a trip to Omaha this year for Oregon baseball because of players that are still in their program, like Spencer Steer. Mods PDX, the future of building, is here.
The home of Dirt and Spray.
I'm Dirt.
Club here on Primetime on 1080 The Fan. Schulte, Ortner, Buck edition today. Did want to give some minutes to the very, very important anniversary today of the Portland Trailblazers winning their 1977 NBA championship. That happened 47 years ago today. The Blazers beat the Philadelphia 76ers in Game 6 of the NBA Finals, 109-107, to grab their one and only NBA title to this point. Of course, gotta give credit where credit is due to the stars of that era, Bill Walton, Maurice Lucas. Walton, during that game, 20 points, 23 rebounds, 8 blocks, 7 assists. Bob Gross scoring 24 points for Portland, and he actually ended up as the leading scorer. Walton was tied with Lionel Hollins as their second leading scorer. Mo Lucas added 15. Twardzik, the leading scorer off the bench, with 7 points for your Blazers. And Julius Erving on the other end ended up having a big game in the loss, 109-107, 40 points. And George McGinnis grabbed 16 total rebounds, had 28 points as well. But the Blazers outlasted them. Fun to think about. Fun to, of course, I was not alive. I am 35 years old, so I have only heard about this amazing day and then the amazing the historic parade that we've, I think, all seen footage of that follows it. I wanted to play it, but I just don't think we're gonna have time, Buck. I mean, it's a little too long. So, but I do want to take some time because we just had Bill Walton pass away. Rest in peace, Bill. Of course, we lost Mo Lucas much too soon years ago. This really isn't like sadness, Will, that I'm feeling on this day, 47 years ago today, the Blazers winning the title, because the organization isn't necessarily, where I want it to be as a fan. But I'm kind of feeling sad because we really have had a lot of loss in the past few years with these, Blazers of years past. Of course, we recently lost Bill Walton, Bill Schonely last year. Rest in peace to him as well. I mean, it's just kind of change hitting me in the face, and I don't like it. I grew up with the Portland Trailblazers, and their run to the Western Conference Finals should have beaten the Lakers going up into the fourth quarter by 14 in that 2000 series. And then obviously growing up seeing Greg Oden get drafted here, I got to cover the Blazers when that happened. Greg, what a nice dude he was, and just what terrible injuries that happened to him. I don't want to go into the reasons for all of that, but then very lucky. What?
Dance Dance.
No, not Dance Dance. They gave him an insert for his foot because it was shorter on the right side than the left, and that caused all kinds of issues.
He was in the Revolution.
You are going right over my head right now.
Dance Dance Revolution. He was in it. He was partying. He needed more cowbell.
Yeah, that's how. If Blazers fans truly found out that Greg Oden's entire basketball career was derailed by a Dance Dance Revolution video game,
there was a Tigers reliever who
in the street
had a strained elbow ligament because he was playing too much Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero, Joel Zumaya.
Yeah. Did that lead to... Joel Zumaya was a guy that threw 100 miles an hour at one point, and I believe he threw out his arm. Did that lead to him throwing out his arm, or was that after?
I think that he got, he played for hours on end and got some strain, and he's like, Skip, I can't go today. Maybe not tomorrow either. And they're like, are you serious?
This brings a new version of shredding it.
For real.
Yeah. God, all right. I really don't know how to transition off of that. Essentially, I am a sad Blazers fan today because things are changing. We're obviously in a new era. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about realizing as I get older that really the teams that I heard about as a kid, the memories, they're still going to be there, but just feeling them get further and further away. I'm feeling slightly older today, and I just kind of wanted to put myself out there with Trailblazers fans and say I'm in the feels today about this anniversary.
How much do you think they paid for parking on that game?
Oh, that's
do you think
question.
That was a bit like?
Well, it was in Philly.
Bucks?
It was in. So if you want to just at home during the NBA Finals,
what was the pay for parking over there back then?
If I'm sure we have listeners that attended the game as a kid. Please,
probably.
Yeah, text in 864-6FAN to the Vancouver Ford text line. If you went to one of the NBA Finals games at the Memorial Coliseum, tell us what you paid for a ticket. Tell us what you paid for a parking spot. I'd love to know.
Probably a couple nickels. You think?
Probably.
Do you
no
think
more than $5 or $10
both ways for that game.
I recently watched the Bill Walton documentary, the 30 for 30 3-part series on him. It covered a lot of that Blazers championship.
Yeah.
And it ended with him saying, at the parade. I rode my bike to the stadium today. If anyone knows where it is and you could please return it to my house, that would be great. So I don't know about car parking, but I do know that Bill Walton rode his bicycle that day and it was lost as he, busy day in the city, as you might imagine.
That's the most Portland thing of all time.
Yeah.
Like, your star player rode a bike.
They had footage of him riding his bike to playoff games during that playoff.
Can you imagine, like, nowadays? Like,
no helmet,
hey, look,
by the way.
there's Joel Embiid biking to the game.
Yeah, that would be weird. I mean, I remember Lamar Odom. He lived within like a couple of blocks of Staples Center because he loved walking to Staples Center before it was called the Crypto.com Arena when he was a member of the Lakers. So there are some players that do that.
Khloe Kardashian was that close?
I don't
the
think
Staples
he was.
Center.
I mean,
That's pre-Khloe Kardashian.
I don't know. All I know, I remember the sports side of it. I don't remember who he was with, or I don't remember. It was a nice story. It's just nice to hear these athletes that want to be close to their stadium because I'm like such a chubby little white sports fan that has no athletic ability that feels the same way when I sleep across the street from T-Mobile Park. Like, it's nice to hear athletes kind of feeling the same way. So.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like that today as a Blazers fan. It's rough, man. Things are changing. Hopefully they can get to the playoffs before 2029, but I guess a little bit of this is kind of lamenting that, we're probably not going to see a title here for a long time.
Vancouver Ford text line, $5 for parking.
No way.
$5.
I love
you
it.
Hear that the city of Portland? $5.
I was 12 years old. I think my dad had tickets for $28 and we paid $5 for parking. That's awesome.
Now you have to pay $80.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Well, that's for a full year, but you're probably going to have to pay for just a single game if you're coming up there and you don't live in the area.
More than $5.
Probably
more. Than $5.
I would say closer to $30 or $40, just depending on where you end up, what area you end up. All right, we're done. We're done with stupid sports. Let's have some fun. Let's move to the club. Why are college grads bringing their parents to a job interview? That is happening, apparently. And the NSA wants you to turn your phone off once a week. Let's have some fun next in the club, coming up on Primetime on 1080 The Fan.
I wish I'd
control gel becoming safe and effective, according to a recent study.
Nope.
We're going to start, though, with the viral Stanley Cup-like craze making its way around social media. Apparently, mini insulated tote bags from Trader Joe's are selling on eBay for up to $100 each. This is an item that originally costs $3.99, and people are buying it up like they were buying up the Stanley Cups and reselling them on eBay. It is either a magenta or a teal-colored bag, and I'm like, great. Now that you say teal, I want one because I'm a diehard Mariners fan, and anything teal, yeah, get my hands on it. The car that we're trying to sell, the Volkswagen Tiguan, is a teal car. So
I can't even. Okay, so people just want it. Are you using it as like a purse? What's going on here?
I think
I don't get how it's become such a status symbol, or even like, I guess why it's better than the next tote. Like why everyone has to have one. Like what is the, like at least with the Stanley mugs, like I guess they were supposed to be like kind of the best of their category or whatever. Like what is the deal with this tote bag? Does it fly?
Well, why are tote bags important? Like who?
That's what I'm saying. Like does it do something besides just carry your groceries?
These are insulated. Yes, they do. They keep your groceries cold.
But there are other totes that do that, right? Or no?
I would assume, but I don't think that they're as cheap as $3.99. I think that is a good price point. And if you look at these, you can see
these are stupid.
It's just a magenta and teal tote bag with the Trader Joe's storefront and a palm tree on the front. But the supermarket chains launched the mini insulated tote across stores on June 4th for the modest sum of $3.99, but it is already flying off the shelves as social media users have been whipped into a frenzy. Several stores in California have completely sold out, and both the teal and magenta bags, only available for a limited time at Trader Joe's, are now selling on eBay for up to $100.
All right, we definitely have one of these at home. Not one of the teal or pink ones.
So not these color, okay.
We have a previous iteration that was more of a royal blue, but I'm going to have to text my wife and tell her we're getting on eBay tonight.
Time
see if we can make a buck.
Time to sell it. Get rid of it. Daddy needs a new pair of shoes.
Right?
This is
something.
This is dumb. Like, what's the point? Who can...
I get why you would want an insulated carrier. It's like a soft-sided cooler. That makes sense to me. But I don't get why. And if you get one for $3.99, that's a great deal. But I don't understand why someone would pay $100 for just a Trader Joe's branded one.
Right,
that's where it loses me.
Right,
I love Trader Joe's, by the way.
Right,
I
it's
love
not a
Trader
slight
Joe's.
to Trader Joe's. It's to the people
who
think something that has been priced at $4 is worth $100.
No, it's the resellers that I'm aiming my vitriol at. I cannot stand it when scalpers go in, try to grab something, and I get it. Market demand makes prices. Some things are more valuable than what the sticker price is, and people create demand for that. So, yeah, the price goes up. However, for a $4 item out of a grocery store, what the hell are we doing, folks?
But what jumped it? Like, are people looking at it and they're like, this is really cute, so then I like it? Because it's not just the insulated ones. It's all of the Trader Joe's tote bags. So they're normal tote bags. You can go to any grocery store. You can go to a Winco, an Albertsons, a Ralph's, a Safeway. You can go to anything, Costco, and get similar tote bags.
Yes.
So what?
I would think so. So, yeah.
Is it because it's Trader Joe's? Like, I feel like Trader Joe's cakes are more expensive because it's a Trader Joe's cake. It's the same thing as another cake, but because it's from Trader Joe's, it's more expensive.
Maybe this is just the hot new thing. The text line says Gucci, Prada, Trader Joe's. It just kind of falls in succession.
It has reached. It's like back in the day when Aeropostale was more expensive. Now it's cheaper because it's not as cool. It's not in vogue.
Aeropostale.
Aeropostale.
I had plenty of Aeropostale.
I did too. Their clothes
Hollister.
sucked. Hollister was a little bit better. Their clothes seemed to be better quality. But I remember Aeropostale and Abercrombie & Fitch, all the shirts that I bought 2 washes later were like literally disintegrated. They were not of good quality.
All right, so
one Instagram, by the way, referred to these insulated totes as the next big thing, saying there was a line this morning at 8 and it was sold out by 8:06. We did not get one.
I'm sorry, you're a loser. If you went to Trader Joe's to hang out and wait in line for a tote bag, That is so dumb. What famous person wore it? Did Kim Kardashian wear it?
Yes, seriously.
Because
good
people
question.
did that for the Stanley. People were like lining up at 4 a.m. or a day early at Target or whatever.
Oh, dude, Stanleys are a thing. You go into a high school classroom, you go into a middle school
So
classroom.
sad.
They all have Stanleys. It's everywhere, and I don't understand
I'm a
why.
Yeti man myself.
See, but at least with that, it's like, okay, like you think the brand is higher quality. Like the Trader Joe's tote bag is not higher quality. I don't understand it. The only thing that makes sense to me is that maybe some famous person, Livy Dunn, Paige Sporanic, just like put on the tote bag, and now all the girls are like, yes, this is awesome.
Oh, the Cavendish sisters are holding the Trader Joe's tote bags. I need mine.
Like, that's the only reason it would make sense. It doesn't do anything. Like, you don't buy the tote bag and your cancer's cured. Like, what's the point? It's the same as any other tote bag.
Vancouver Ford text line. Stories like this Trader Joe's bag thing makes me a little sad for our country. I agree. I don't want to bag on people for buying things that they
I see
want.
what you did there.
Ha, thank you. Yeah, dad joke. I don't want to bag on people for buying what they want, but when I will bag on people is when they will try to create a market shortage, like it sounds like people are doing. Another social media post about this story out of California. Another commenter saying that the store that they were at had the totes all sold out in 10 minutes after the store opened. Another one said, my store sold out in 15 minutes with 40 people in line even before the store's door opened.
Clearly, I'm wrong, but I love this text from the Vancouver Ford text line. We need an Isache tote.
We do.
Isache.
We need. All right.
We should get into that business. We should sell them for
$150.
Or I was gonna say, since they're slightly more elite, maybe like $5.99.
Well, no,
$6.99?
I think we undercut, then we raise the price. I took one econ class, and while I slept through Monday through Thursday, Friday I paid attention
So 20% of that class served you well.
I was hungover, and I remembered one specific part of it, and that was you undercut early, so then you can overpay once you cut out the competition.
I mean, maybe I need to get me one of these bags because it's teal. I'm just kidding. No, I'm never going to do that. That's literally why people are falling victim to this, hearing about this amazing new item. It's just a bag. I think my wife and I have a couple of these as well, Buck, now that you mention it.
So I am reading up from marketplace.org about this trend. I'm trying to make sense of why, as Will wanted to know.
I want to know why. I'm so confused.
This article says, think of it as a quiet luxury aesthetic that rejects ostentatious garments. It used to be, ooh, I need the really fancy purse. I need the really expensive handbag.
Okay.
And now it might be, I have this limited edition tote that signals to all other people that I'm a fan of this company.
I mean, are you a fan of this company, or was it like one of the 12 bags that you as a reseller, lining up at this Trader Joe's before it opens, then tries to go make money off of?
It's limited edition, high fashion, but not high fashion because it's cheap.
Because anybody with a computer and a credit card can get what they want. So the excitement of having those very high-end things maybe has dimmed a little bit. Like, I don't think that's how that works, but
I'm just waiting for the grocery outlet to become the high-class place. It's only a matter of time. Trader Joe's is here.
I like the Isachi idea, though. We should do like a teal Isachi bag. That's what we need to do. But it's
you can't do teal because they've already done teal. You need to do like a lavender.
You can do 1080 the fan colors, red and black.
that works too.
Yeah, why not?
Isachi.
Yeah, do an Isachi. We could do a 1080 version. We could do a Ducks version. We could do a Beavers version. Exactly. And then we won't even leave all you Husky and Cougar fans out. No, you got some of them listening too. So Patrick Harris would love that Cougars.
You can do a Pack 2 version.
I, for one, can see Patrick Harris lining up at 4 a.m. to get one of those.
He seems
one of these Trader Joe's totes.
He seems like the perfect guy for this Trader Joe's tote.
I actually thought the opposite. I thought he would rather sit at the bar and have a beer watching everybody line up.
That's a good call.
I don't know. It's tough. So, yeah, people are lining up at Trader Joe's all over California and the rest of the country trying to get these totes. A new Stanley Cup craze is upon us. It's unbelievable. And I hate when people think they can take advantage of others, because that's literally all that's happening. They're trying to bump the price up and take advantage of a hot item and make money off of that.
If people are willing to spend it,
You're not. Yeah, you're right.
They're not like out there saying, "Hey, I work for the FBI and you owe me $100 for this tote bag." They're saying, "Here's a tote bag," and people have bid it up to $100. That's on them. That's on you, dude.
All right, coming up next in the club, find out why the NSA wants you to turn your phone off more often. That's coming up next on Primetime on 1080 The Fan.
The Fan Merch Locker is now open.
The T-shirts are made. The T-shirts have been produced.
Your quality control.
Get your shirt
A male birth control showing very, very effective in some new studies, or a new trial.
Well, this is very timely for me. We'll get to it, but I got the snip scheduled for next Friday, so may make me consider things. I mean, maybe not really, because I can kind of do a whole one-shot deal there where it takes care of it forever.
Mm-hmm.
But you're telling me a gel could do the same job? We'll see.
Possibly.
Well, I've been told it's not forever. You got to survive 25 or so. You got to get through the first 25.
Okay.
That's what I've been warned through my exhaustive research.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, one buddy one time told me 25.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that it really doesn't take until about 3 months after.
Yeah, that's why they said around 25. I was like, how do you do the math? Never mind.
Yeah. I think that those who have been able to figure out what you're talking about have figured it out, and any further explanation is not necessary.
I wasn't super gung-ho of like, so what was your experience like? Did they hold your hand?
Well, Suk said when he had his done that the doctor took his pants off, and I was like,
Wait
a second.
I know.
Hold on.
I heard that story
Yeah.
after my buddy told me about his experience. So next time I see my buddy, we're going to have a full-on conversation. Like, were you able to do this?
They are going to rock your ass for 2 hours. Have you ever had a grown man take your pants off?
No.
That's what it was.
No, and I'm not sure I'd let anybody take my pants off besides myself, my wife, or somebody that my wife says it's okay to take my pants off. So that's hell
You
no.
might say the doctor's okay.
No,
I would
she
think
would not.
I would think that doctor. I mean, that is their job.
I was going for another female there. That's what I was thinking.
Well, the doctor's just doing their job. Are they doing a stand-up to cancer thing in the middle of the softball World Series? Is that what's going on here?
I'm not sure.
It looks like it.
I think they're
That's
doing
cool.
a stand-up to cancer thing.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
Interesting.
Hey, let's get a cure for cancer. That's actually part of my wife's job. So she works
there
in
you go.
she works in cancer research, and basically trying to monitor studies that go on with that and make sure that protocols are being followed and that drugs are being disposed of correctly and that kind of thing, and all the paperwork's being handled by insurances and whatnot. So pretty cool. Hopefully,
I get it. I'm part of Be the
that's
Match.
happening elsewhere too.
I'm part of that registry. If I match with someone, I will donate. I think it's plasma, something. I'm not really sure.
Plasma, maybe marrow.
Yeah.
Oh, marrow's a tough. I mean, kudos to you if you donate marrow. You got to get a big needle stuck in your back. It's a dangerous procedure and it is painful.
I'm all for it. Whatever helps others. Let's do it.
Well, let's try to help some others here with some advice. This is from the NSA, apparently, and I am not shocked one bit. I mean, we're dealing with whether you have an iPhone or an Android, or I'm sure Nokia still makes phones. But
what if you have a Motorola Razr?
I think
does this affect you?
That is technically an Android, yes, because that runs the Android software. So, but the NSA is trying to help people basically avoid getting hacked. All of our information has been super at risk now, probably for the past 20 years or so, since iPhones started to become a thing, and centralized servers all held our information and credit card info and all the stuff that companies say that they can protect. Well, most of it has been leaked. I mean, whether it be email addresses, passwords. I know a lot of my passwords have ended up in leaks, and this is something that affects literally everybody. One thing that I did not think about in all of this is the NSA wanting you to turn your phone off once a week to avoid these hacks. And that is because, Will, there is some spyware that can get onto your phone. Essentially, it's like it's recording everything you do, all the touches, all the websites that you go to, and it's kind of this underlying program that can just act and get all your information while you're using it. But a great way to get rid of this sneaky hacked program on your phone is just to turn it off. So apparently, if you turn your phone off once a week or you reboot your phone once a week, it is an outstanding way, one of the best ways the NSA says, to actually keep hackers from getting these it's like a touching.
How long do I have to turn it off? Does it say?
No, just reboot it.
But so by turning it off, it essentially
gets rid of this Trojan horse.
The spyware that's okay.
Or this touching spyware. Yeah, it literally takes your finger strokes and movements on the phone, so then it can go back in and know your passwords.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like you guys have dealt with this as well. When you get the whole, your password has appeared in a data leak.
Yeah.
Do you want to reset your password? It's always at a time when I'm like, I don't actually have time for that now. And I always say no. Am I an idiot for always saying no? I don't want to I'm like, if it already got leaked, what do I care?
I always say no, and 9 times out of 10, it's for something I probably shouldn't say no to that. I bought something off that website.
Yeah, you gave your credit card to them.
Right. See, but
then I'm driven by the convenience of it's not convenient for me right now to change that password. So how do I get past this step? I just say, nah, I'm good.
Well, it's also if it was my bank account that it popped up for and was like, hey, this isn't a data leak, I would change it very fast. But if it's for what I'm buying on True Classic or whatever Instagram ad tricked me into buying a new t-shirt, which they're very nice, I'm not going to change anything. I don't care. Sick, I guess maybe you can steal all 10 of my dollars.
I like this text in the Vancouver Ford text line. What are these guys going to do with my info? Tell my bank that I visit Google and Pornhub once a day? I ain't scared.
That's true. I think they're trying to get into your bank account there, Jordan, but I understand the point that you're making.
You outed him? You said his name?
He signed it.
He signed the text.
Yeah, but now the thousands of people that are listening
Lots
now.
Of Jordans.
Yeah, mine's...
Could be anyone.
I'm a Jordan with an O, bro. He could be a Jordan with an E for all everybody knows, right? Nobody actually knows. You're being too scared.
I don't know. Jordan's famous.
Another
could be
text.
Michael.
Another text on the Vancouver Ford text line. So, is the NSA done hacking Americans? Just bringing up the point that the NSA has always been rumored to be listening to Americans with our phones. Because I mean, it's creepy, guys. I don't know if you've experienced this. I'm assuming you do, but like I'm talking about something with my wife, and then 10 minutes later, it's on my phone as an ad, and I am freaked out as hell by that. It is literally listening, and I don't know if it's like a person, it's probably just a machine, but it is recording the words that I say and then trying to find an ad to work with that conversation.
There's a really good documentary called The Great Hack that is on, I think it's on Netflix, and basically it's about this whole system where you essentially have to agree to terms and services to use your devices, but in agreeing, you're giving your device access to the microphones and things like that. And yeah, there are certain things that you can do to avoid it or turn it off, but ultimately, if you want to be able to use the up-to-date technology, you have to agree to giving up that information. And then it talks about what they do with that information, how they use it to, leverage sales against you and things like that. It is a wild world.
I feel if I haven't watched this, I have to go. I have to go find it. I mean, I still have so much on my schedule to watch. I got to watch
The Great Hack.
The Great Hack. Is it a Netflix, a Hulu? Or?
I believe it was on Netflix.
Okay.
I think it's still there, but it was a Netflix documentary, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen it. Because what you're saying sounds familiar, but it's probably just a rewatch for me at this point because the information is so good.
By the way, Jordan's back in. He said, "Did I stutter? The last text said I ain't scared." It's not like I told you the categories I searched for.
See, he doesn't care. He
but
says I
what
can
if
say his name.
I'm just trying to protect you. I'm Team Jordan. I'm out here trying to protect you. That's all I'm trying to do. But also, what if it did release the categories? That would be bad.
That's, yeah. I don't want to know that. I do not.
Why do we hack into things? Like, I get it. It's a way of, like, getting money and stuff like that. But why do you hack into the other stuff?
Because you could get money. Because
Like
there's
blackmail.
ways of using that. Yeah, ways of using that for blackmail to get money. Ways of, you can sell information to get money, Will.
I was gonna say, like, all you're gonna find out is that I bought the wrong size of shirt from a Hong Kong dealership. Like, sick.
All right,
Guess what? XL is not XL.
I like calling
over
an
there.
online retailer a dealership.
I couldn't
That's
think
nice.
of retailer and dealership. We've been talking about cars, so it came up as dealership. But look, all you're gonna find out is that in Hong Kong, an XL is not the same size as an XL here in the States. Just be aware.
Look at Adrian Gonzalez on the LA Dodgers TV broadcast. Good for him. All right, so yeah, the NSA wants you to turn off your phone once a week to try to stop this spyware from affecting you. So good luck. Apparently, according to the Vancouver Ford text line, there is a new piece of software on phones now, or new phones have this, where it's like automatically set like every week or just a certain amount of time to reset your phone. So that's good. That helps. So yeah, helping each other. I like this. And the tech companies are trying to help us save our info, even though it does feel like it's impossible. All right, 19% of recent grads are bringing parents with them to their job interviews. Is that number real? We'll get to that next in the club, but first, here's Buck with SportsCenter.
Now,
Now, this isn't necessarily like job interview wise or in the workplace, but this is definitely like a dating thing. I have gone on dates with different people where you're texting back and forth the entire time, no issues, and then you can't have a conversation with anybody. Like, you
that's
actually get out in public, and it's like...
Oh, with the person that you went on a date with. You were corresponding.
So
okay, gotcha.
you know, you meet them beforehand, you get the phone number, and you start texting with them, and you're like, oh, okay, like, they seem like a nice person, this is going to go great. And then you get out on the date, and you're like, you cannot talk at all. Like, not even small talk. I do at times have a fear.
That's a major trouble with dating apps because anybody can take whatever time they need to procure the perfect written message. Ultimately, you need to go out there and meet someone to find out if chemistry is there. And I think the longer that you hang on to the written texting, messaging, whatever, the more expectation you're putting out there without anything behind it.
Right. Well, I worry about that in this office. I worry about it when I'm teaching. Like, I am Gen Z 100%. I am a part of this generation. And there are things like, now there are some things that I have to learn about, you know, like one of the other days, our great sales guy over here, Joe, he reached out to me. Someone had reached out to them. And so he was like, hey, we'll have them talk to you about like how to find internships or how to find jobs or whatever. And I realized I'd never met Joe. So I made sure to go up and try and say hey to him. I'm sure it wasn't the most normal conversation or most normal interaction that he had with coworkers before, but it's like, as a Gen Z person, sometimes you need to go out there and go and have a conversation with somebody and
actually interact with people.
That. Yeah, no, it's a thing. Like, I didn't love that when I had my job interview with one of the school districts that I subbed at, it was in the same office building as my mom. My mom wasn't there to help me through my sub.
That's different than showing up to an interview with your
much
parents.
Different.
Right, but 100%. But at the same time, at the end of the job interview, guess who I had to go, like, the person who interviewed me was like, do you want me to take you to your mom's desk now so you can say hi? Your mom said that she wanted to say hi to you.
Oh, that's weird.
And it's like,
that's weird.
Don't love this, but this is the price I pay for nepotism so that I can get this job.
I mean, I got a job at like a pretzel shop at the mall because my mom worked at the clothing apparel store across from it, you know. Well, like, but that's when I was like 16, 17. So I think that's a little different, right?
It is, I mean, again, you're talking about just making a connection. Your mom talks to the person, says, hey, would you like give my kid a look? Sure, we'll talk to him. But like, your mom didn't sit down with you for the interview, did she? Well, I guess you're 16, no. But like
no.
It was
about
recent college grads.
No, I mean she wasn't even there. She didn't take me to the interview. I drove myself, and I don't even think she was at work when I was there. So
By the way, how did you graduate college if you needed your parents to bring you to an interview? Like, did they go and take your exams with you?
Online classes.
I guess
you just take a lot of classes online, or you show up. You can go to a class and not talk to anybody. It's very easy to get a degree. Sometimes two, without really having any conversations with anyone in your classes.
In between sessions of Fortnite, essentially, you just like slip some online classes in. Is that what you're saying? Just stay in your parents' basement, play Fortnite, but in between, take a break and go to school.
Look, as someone
where the hell are we at in
as
society
someone
today?
Who graduated from an illustrious university, who loves their school and has nothing but positive things to say about the great Central Washington University. It wasn't like it was the most difficult thing of all time. And if you wanted to find a way to only take online classes, you can totally do that. You can get a teaching degree now just by doing online classes, if that's what you want. And I'm sure that's not the only degree that you can do. So I'm sure there are plenty of people who look at it and go, I don't want to move out of my parents' house. It's too expensive, or it's not something that I'm comfortable with doing. I will do online classes. I will do this. You know, I have parents, so I don't really need to have a job. I can hang out here and do all these things. And then all of a sudden you are 24 years old, 25 years old, trying to find a job, and you've never had to have a job interview before. Most people have to go through the crappy 7-Eleven Safeway job interview where you learn it's not cool to show up in shorts.
Nope.
It's not cool to show up and not have answers to questions.
Nope.
Or not have questions at the end of the job
interview. Or show up
interview.
late.
Right. These are all things that you have to learn.
I interviewed at an AT&T, did not get the job because I showed up late. Interviewed at a Safeway, did not get that job. Ended up working in a pretzel shop. I worked as a janitor. Yeah, jobs kind of on the way up, you know. That's just what you're supposed to do, and you learn Got to be a good employee there, but that's not happening apparently.
Ooh, maybe one point of clarification here. The text line asking us, is it 1 in 5 applicants that bring a parent or 1 in 5 companies that reported having an applicant that did this? Which that would make the number like
a lot smaller. That's a great
because
question.
if it's just one person, it's not one out of every 5 applicants. It's just one person for any of those companies. So I guess of the 800 companies polled, like 160 of them were like, yeah, we saw that one time. That could be. That would at least explain the number a little bit better.
That's a good question. But so maybe the number overall is smaller.
Still jarring.
Yeah, the fact that it's happening at all is ridiculous.
If you got to show up with mom, well, one, if you as a parent think it's okay to show up to your kid's interview, we need to have a conversation.
What's the hit rate on the interview success there?
0%.
When you roll
minus 10.
When you roll in like Brennan and Dale,
well,
from
we need those
Step
numbers to be public,
Brothers,
so we stop doing that.
What if it works?
God.
Like,
Yeah, if that actually got somebody a job,
You know, I wasn't going to interview you, but your mom's cookies were fantastic.
just shove a hot poker through my eye. No thanks. All right, a new trial shows that male birth control gel is safe and effective. We'll wrap it up with that next on The Fan.
The home of Dirt and Sprague.